Jim's good. But I answered you.
Hello, Laura. How are you? Do I need to read anything into the minutes? You didn't.
No, you just emailed them.
You didn't. You didn't.
He's not here yet.
You didn't summarize them. Do you want me to read the whole thing in, or what do you want me to do?
I think they're here.
I know.
Tiger baseball watching you this afternoon.
Right. Okay.
You should read it
She said same thing. She said she thinks they're here. And then, what about their distance?
It's all the second.
And then this is, did I print the wrong one? This is fun. At least I think it was. Did you get the email from Friends of the Bush?
No, I did not.
Oh, Tim did. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
I didn't check my email after about 3 o'clock. No, you
Doing
didn't.
good. How you doing?
Thank you.
Pardon me? Oh, good for you. Really? How many, yeah, I owed you for that. Not in didn't qualify for that. I did get hung up on one thing, but I had to go look up the code and figure it out.
I saw
That
that
first
pretty
turbo
recent.
tech, a bug that they fixed.
They have
My daughter has a Mac. Turbo
That's
tech,
who
they first tried to use taxes on the road.
Yeah. So they have about
I've been using it for years.
Yeah, we found that there were moments when it was like, oh, what are we doing? But no, it's obviously. Oops, I'm sorry.
So how many returns have you?
Are your mic's on?
Oh my God.
Kendra, make sure your mic is on.
Everybody.
So, wow. You ever run into anything you've never seen?
Oh.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm just so straight laced. I get worried that do I have a receipt for that $10 in.
Like donate 20,000 to their church, but then withdraw money early retirement and pay all that extra tax to like pay off the credit card bills that are in.
The Plymouth Township Planning Commission meeting will come to order at
Can't hear you,
7:03. Can you hear me? Is this better? Okay. If the secretary will please call roll.
Dennis Cebulski,
Here.
Kendra Barberina,
Here?
Gail Grieger here, Bob Dorshevitz,
Here.
Tim Boyd,
Here.
James Barry,
Here.
and John Itzel is excused.
Thank you. And we have a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting, and I have no additions or deletions. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda as submitted.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Barberina and supported by Commissioner Boyd to approve the okay. We have a motion on the floor to approve tonight's agenda as submitted. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And a motion to approve the minutes of February 15th.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes as submitted.
Is there support?
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Barberina and supported by Commissioner Boyd to approve the February 15th meeting as submitted. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And this is the time for public comment on a non-agenda item. So if there's anyone here that wishes to speak on an item that is not going to be discussed later in the meeting, feel free to come up to the podium and give us your name and address if you so desire. If you come up.
Good evening. My name is Otto Wire. I am interested in the former dry cleaner, Tate's. The address is 14272 Northville Road. My current address is 6450 Sharon, Garden City. I am just proposing that I would like to purchase this property, live in the house, and turn the dry cleaner into my own personal garage. If that's something that you guys would consider, I will draw up plans and bring it to the next meeting. I would definitely improve this property, tear out the parking lot that's there and leave a driveway. I've been told by many people that this is zoned multifamily, and as a single residence, I would not be able to live in it if I was to purchase it right now.
So he would have to ask for a rezoning if he wished to do that,
Yeah,
correct?
it's a little chicken and the egg problem you have. But you might explore the option of a conditional purchase agreement, that the purchase agreement would only go through if you could get the rezoning. Because we can't tell you, for sure we'd rezone it, and until you're the property owner, we can't.
Yeah,
Explore
so
it.
part of the
Right,
problem is I tried to get the current owner to come down here. There's a major language barrier. He is Korean, and he doesn't understand English very well. So I guess that property will just remain empty if because I personally can't get the zoning changed on it to single-family residence or as
He
a
doesn't
single
have
family, as a
standing, does he?
multifamily, I cannot own that, live in it.
You need the deed holder,
Yeah, he doesn't have standing.
I'm sorry?
the deed holder of the property.
Yeah, okay. All right, I will see if he's willing to have an interpreter and come on down with me at one point. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on a non-agenda item? Okay,
Yes, I want to clarify right up front, this is not agenda. I have read the agenda. I am very surprised, but I'm very happy to see the participative democracy of everybody here tonight. John Stewart, 14956 Maplewood, 38-year resident of Plymouth Township, current trustee. Thank you. I was the trustee that insisted that you vet all development projects. I did not want to see developers coming to the trustees and leapfrogging over and trying to push their way past us. And I was very grateful for Tim Boyd coming to a trustee meeting and speaking. I have two invitations for you. In the spirit that Dennis and I have worked with Chair for 35 years for this township, we have a quality of life occurrence Saturday night with over 700 people anticipated for an Earth Day concert at Salem Auditorium Michigan Philharmonic with the Youth Symphony Orchestra with the high school brass, having the opportunity to play with the orchestra from the balcony of the new rehabbed Salem Auditorium. Displays will be in the hallway of the Township Environmental Council and of the Friends of the Rouge, and I respect greatly Marie McCormick and our efforts, both Planning Commission and Board of Trustees, to adhere to the principles of the Friends of the Rouge, the environment. On May 23, there is a statewide event at Park. 53 tenants there, not one penny of township or city tax dollars goes to support PARC. 2 speakers, the envy of every chamber of commerce across Michigan. The president of the Small Business Association of Michigan, Brian Kelly, and the mayor of Holland talking about economic development. Also, the executive director of Tulip Time, Gwen Alwerda, is coming. In front of the park will be an all-electric vehicle, currently under construction over at the auto shop of the Plymouth Canton Schools. It is not scheduled to be ready until May 15th. May 23, this will be on display, and it'll be the only high school auto shop to have produced their own all-electric vehicle from A to Z. We have a lot of reasons to be proud of all of the good things in Plymouth Township. I sincerely want to thank you again, and I certainly hope to see some of you Saturday night, and then on May 23 for a Michigan Week luncheon at Gail's house, the 7-year director of the Plymouth Arts and Recreation Complex, and I don't know how she does it, providing oversight and accountability for over 53 tenants. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on a non-agenda item? Okay, moving on. We have our first public hearing, application 2472, the St. John's Townhouse, our townhomes, PUD option, and if the planner will present her report.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Zabalski. The application before you this evening is for a planned unit development, a PUD. This is for the option eligibility, so as you recall, this is the first stage in such a development. The subject site is 8 acres that is currently located on the St. John's Resort and Golf Club establishment. That would be just east of Sheldon Road and south of 5 Mile. As we state in our planning memo on page 2, the St. John's Resort has been undergoing a number of renovations and changes to the property in the past several years. One of those changes was to carve out these 8 acres that front onto Sheldon Road and to unencumber that property from the existing St. John's Resort PUD. By doing so, the Pulte family now is looking to develop those 8 acres. They're no longer part of the existing St. John's PUD. They'd like to form their own PUD on the site for 73 townhome units. On page 2 of our memo, we provide a little bit of history about the project site, and we also detail a summary of the project program, which includes less than 20% of the land devoted to the actual residential units themselves. Approximately 54% would remain as open space or landscapes. On page 3 of our report, we detail the process for a PUD option. And that, again, this is at the very beginning, initial stage of the process. So tonight, the objective is to have a public hearing on the proposal and to make a recommendation to the Board of Trustees for their consideration in the eligibility. And as a PUD, there are 4 criteria that must be found to be satisfactory in order to grant the planned unit development option. That is what the majority of our memo discusses. And in general, we do find that this can support the PUD. However, there are a couple items that we would like to see revised on that option moving forward before it goes to the Board of Trustees. And those are outlined on page 10 of our report. So the first is a traffic impact memorandum. We don't see an issue with this, but this is something that we have discussed with engineering, and they would like to see. The revised eligibility plan, which notes several items. The first is that the preservation of natural features be enhanced. The installation of an 8-foot non-motorized pathway from this side of Sheldon, from the east side, that would run all the way north up to 5 Mile Road. This would be primarily for those individuals living in these 73 townhomes so that they would have unobstructed access, safe access to 5 Mile Road and could then cross 5 Mile or go west at Sheldon. Improved ADA accessibility at the site. A potential to reduce parking and or use less intrusive pavement areas such as impervious pavers on some of the additional parking areas that they have. That greater architectural detail is provided for the sides of the structures. They provided some preliminary architectural elevations, but we recommend that the entire building, including the side elevations, have similar features. Some additional buffering along Sheldon Road, including additional landscaping. And then throughout the site, additional landscaping would be installed beyond the minimum standards of the zoning ordinance as a PUD. So we do find that this can satisfy those 8 criteria. However, there are some minor adjustments that we would like to see made to the PUD eligibility plan in order to secure that eligibility and move forward to the next step. So if the commission is so prepared, a recommendation to approve with those conditions would be appropriate to the Board of Trustees tonight following the public hearing. Thank you.
And the engineer isn't here this evening, but I mean, have you spoken to him at all about his report?
Yes, they don't have any major concerns. It was just the traffic impact was something that they wanted validating. As 73 townhomes, this is not anticipated to have a significant impact on the traffic at all. And it is located with access onto Sheldon Road, which is a major thoroughfare in the township.
And is
You want to
that,
go through what you,
Oh, I would, if you wanted to just scroll over to, that's the general site location where the townhomes would be. The next screen shows the, conceptual plan for the layout. North would be to the left on the screen, right, Sheldon Road, to the bottom. Those were the PUD criteria. And then this was just an exhibit to show why we are requesting that 8-foot pedestrian path that would run from the development all the way to 5 Mile. And they are proposing intersection improvements there at Helm, which goes into the industrial park to the west. However, you can see the red dots. Those are all different curb cuts and access drives. So as a pedestrian, if you were to cross over, that's, those are the number of conflict points that you would potentially be intersecting with as a walker. Whereas on the east side of Sheldon, it's unobstructed to provide safe access, and then you're not doubling back at the intersection of Sheldon and 5. So that's just to highlight why we thought that was important to include as part of this. Thank you.
is the applicant here?
Good evening. I'm Joe Score with Pulte Homes. I also have our project engineer, Matt Bush, with Atwell. I'm happy to go through the plan. We have a few slides, and I think some of them will answer some of the questions and proposed conditions relative to this PUD. The one thing I do want to sort of mention off the bat here, I think there's a little bit of confusion or a misunderstanding in terms of the parties associated with not only the St. John's Resort, but we're proposing here tonight. So you have the Pulte family that's doing the renovation or the reconfiguration, redevelopment of St. John's, and then we're Pulte Homes proposing this PUD. The two parties are independent, separate, unrelated, and unaffiliated. There is no connection between the two parties or the two entities. They're not a subsidiary of Pulte Homes, and Pulte Homes is not a subsidiary of the Pulte family. This is an arm's length transaction, not unlike any other transaction between a buyer and a seller. So it's a little confusing. It's the same name. I totally understand why why there's a misunderstanding sometimes, but I just wanted to clear that up. So I think we had some slides too, but I'm not sure. Where is it?
We have them on a flash
I
drive?
thought we submitted them, but I think it would help a little bit with some of the issues that were discussed earlier. I don't know if you have that. We submitted them.
If you,
Okay.
Thanks. Which one?
You can do the PDF, that probably seems to be what you're using a second ago. So, yeah.
This one?
There you go. Thank you.
Yeah. So this is actually a very similar slide that you've already seen. This is a 73-unit townhome on the St. John's property. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah, so I think, in terms of the product and the type of community, I think this provides a housing option that isn't really available, not only in this section of the township, but in the township in general. This is a proposed no-maintenance, low-maintenance community. So this is where the HOA is responsible for the exterior maintenance of the grounds, the snow plowing, the grass cutting, landscaping. It's also responsible for the exterior of the building and the roof. So we think this will cater toward, the young professionals, young buyers, and even in certain situations, the pre-retiree or the empty nester that's looking for that no maintenance option, or maybe even that lock and leave. So we think it'll cater to sort of a broad group of consumers, current residents and future residents of the township.
What is the size you're estimating?
Approximately 2,100 square feet. Yeah.
Price range?
Well, it's a little early, but we would think that a base pricing would start somewhere in the fours. Yeah, and then of course you have options and premiums and upgrades. Yeah. So next slide, please. So this is sort of the front, rear facade, and side elevation. We put a lot of time and effort into designing this architecture. You can see that we have a mix of brick, stone, hardy plank siding. You've got some of the vertical siding for that modern farmhouse look. Lots of architectural diversity with brackets and eaves. Upgraded windows, upgraded trim package. It's a very nice product. We think that it will be very attractive and appealing to consumers. And then I think the comments about the side elevation, I think there was an error in the original submittal. That is the proposed side elevation, and that will be consistent both on the right and left side of the building. Next slide, please. So there was a comment in the report and the presentation relative to the preservation of natural features of the site, and that is a priority, and we understand that. This is obviously the first time you've seen this plan. This is, we've been working on this design for probably 9 months. There were many iterations of this plan. And so when we designed it, we had the preservation of the natural features, the wetlands, the woodlands in mind as we designed it. And so you'll notice, it's a little blown up, so it's a little hard to see, but on the western edge of the site, that green area, that is a high quality regulated wooded wetland, okay? We specifically and intentionally modified the plan, the road network to stay out of that area and not impact that environmentally sensitive part of the property. So we are cognizant, we are sensitive to the natural features of the site, and that is obviously your goal and ours. Admittedly, the blue area, that is an impact. Now, I will say that, while that is regulated technically, It is a lower quality wetland. That is actually a man-made golf pond that's being impacted. So we don't hold that to the same standard, or look at it the same way as we do the higher quality wooded wetland.
So the golf course is going to be reconfigured as a result, right?
Well, they are reconfiguring the golf course. There's no doubt.
Okay.
Yeah.
As we speak.
Tree inventory, we will provide a tree inventory as required. And then, the impacts, the proposed impacts in the detention pond area, I mean, this is a self-contained project, just as the renovation of the resort is a self-contained project. They have their detention, they have their stormwater management system, we have ours. And frankly, that's where the pond has to go. That's the low point of the site. That's where the water wants to go, and we really don't have any other options relative to the configuration of the pond or location, and whatever impacts there may be. That's unfortunately what has to happen, given the configuration of the site. There's a comment about impervious surface. We have no problem reducing or eliminating guest parking, as the planner mentioned. Next slide, please. So this is, I think, an issue and something to definitely discuss. Relative to pedestrian pathways and connections, we understand that interconnectivity and pathway networks and walkability is an important priority in Plymouth Township, and we feel the same way. We are proposing, as Ms. Howell mentioned, a crosswalk and enhanced signalization at Helm to bring pedestrians across Sheldon from the west side to the east side and then up to 5 Mile. The issue with putting a path on the east side of Sheldon in the right of way up to 5 Mile is that yellow rectangular box. That area right there is, if you look to the right, there's a guardrail there, okay? And there's the reason why there's a guardrail there is because there are steep slopes in that particular area. I mean, there's a significant fall from the grade. There's literally no room to put a path. So between the guardrail and the curb, you're looking at 4 feet, okay? So I don't know what you do with that. We physically can't install a path in that particular area of the right of way. This is not viable. So again, we do understand the importance of connectivity and pathway networks and non-motorized systems, but this, a pathway in that particular section of the right of way is just not practical or due to the physical constraints of the property.
Can you give more detail on what you're proposing for the signaled pedestrian crossing there?
So we are required to enhance the signal itself, the traffic signal, okay, per Wayne County standards. And then we are proposing a crosswalk. And I could give you the technical or the specifics of the scope of that crosswalk, but a crosswalk across Sheldon, just to the, I would say, north of Helm. That, I believe, was. Any other questions? There was another slide relative to buffering and, landscaping on Sheldon Road. Can you go back to that slide, that presentation, please?
Sorry.
That's okay.
Is that it?
No, it was the last, I'm not sure. It was the last slide in the,
I don't know, I got too many windows open. Hang on. Here we go.
Yeah, there you go. So we're definitely not opposed to doing a more robust landscape plan, adding plantings, and going above the minimum. Relative to proposed berms on Sheldon Road, the section in red between units 43 and 61, there is really no room to install a berm in that area. We can install additional plantings and sort of increase that landscape plan in that particular area. We're not opposed to that whatsoever. And then to the north, that green area, there is room for a berm. We have no issue with that. And it's, as I mentioned, in terms of this landscape plan in general, we're more than happy to upgrade it and enhance it. And I believe that is it. If you have any questions for me, I'm more than happy to answer them.
So just to clarify, on the recommendation page, you don't have any issues in meeting those recommendations other than your concern about the pathway?
Well, I mean, I can go back to that recommendation page. I think the pathway is a concern. I believe that buffering, I think that was a recommendation or a proposed condition. The buffering in that one section is difficult. Other than that, I don't recall anything really specific that we couldn't comply with, or it would at least at the very least we would consider.
I'm not sure. I think this particular feature is still on the site, given the reconfiguration of the golf course. I think this has to do more with the driving range. There's a big netting up there to prevent the golf balls from flying over into Sheldon Road. Does that impact this at all?
So I don't know that that's not going away in the reconfiguration and redevelopment of the golf course. That is something that, I can we can consider that, and I will speak to the property owner. But I believe that is being, that will not be, that's not going to be there in the future, after the redevelopment. But that's something that we'll confirm.
Questions from the commission?
Yeah, I have a couple. About the part along Sheldon where you can't put in a sidewalk.
Yeah.
There's a number of areas here in Plymouth Township, Northville Township, Novi, where there's sidewalks along major roads. Particularly, I'm thinking Beck Road here. And in those areas where there's a steep drop-off, the developer has put in a elevated wooden sidewalk along the area where normally there would be a concrete sidewalk. Specifically, there's one on Beck Road. I think it's between 8 and 9 Mile, the gated community. There's a whole section there where the sidewalk goes above like a wetlands area. So I think you could extend that sidewalk if you were to use that type of approach.
Yeah, I mean, we've done boardwalks in the past. Usually, we install boardwalks where there's regulated wetlands. I don't know in terms of the physical constraints of the property and the width of that area between the curb and the gutter. I mean, that's something we have to look into. I really couldn't comment on the viability or feasibility of a boardwalk or bridge in that area. But that's something that we would take a look at. But it's not something that I couldn't comment on at this time.
Okay, I guess I'd just be interested that you would take
Sure.
a look at it. The other has to do, and I apologize to my fellow commissioners here, but the tree survey is very important, and particularly if there are heritage trees, that you would look at trying to save those rather than just tear them down and replace them with new trees. Sure. It's kind of hard to look at the site. It looks like there's an awful lot of scrub trees in the site, but it did look like there were probably 3 very tall, old-growth trees on what I would call the southern portion of the eastern boundary of the property. So if there was a way to save, looks like they're right up almost against the golf course property. If there was a way to save those, that would be a plus.
Yeah, I'll take a look. I mean, I think we have the same interest. Our goals are aligned on that. Unfortunately, sometimes, it's sort of a tight site. You have grading issues, and we do our best. We want to save as many trees as possible too.
Just ask that you take a look
But I think it's a great point.
Any other
Excuse me a
comments?
second. People that are watching it on the streaming are saying they can't hear you.
They can't?
Maybe when you turn around and look at the screen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can hear you fine. but-
Okay, great. I'll try that.
Any other comments from the commission? Okay, we'll ask you to come back probably, but
Okay.
we're going to open the public hearing at 7:33. And so everyone here has an opportunity to speak for 3 minutes. Give us your name and address if you so desire. Everyone who has had a chance to speak and they think, well, I should have said something else, or they've heard conversation and they had another question or two, you get another 3 minutes after everyone else has had their opportunity to talk. We ask you not to applaud or boo when these comments come up, because we're sort of neutral here. We're here to gather information. Outward displays of approval or disapproval really play no role in our decision-making, so shouldn't be done. And I ask everyone to follow the 3 Cs as that, to be clear, concise, cogent, and civil. So with that, we'll open the public hearing, and you can just line up and state whatever questions or comments you have. We appreciate you all coming out as well. No one here, okay? If you can come up, do you have a question or a comment?
Chair.
Yeah. Regarding this property, yeah. I think most of you here are for the Spars greenhouse. So, okay, well, what I just said goes for that as well, so. Okay. You can come on up again, and Laura, I have one question. Yeah, we'll close the public hearing at 7:35. Laura, there seems to be a number of issues. I don't think they're insurmountable issues, but I'm a little surprised that some of these weren't addressed or earlier, so that we have a more complete picture to present to the Board of Trustees.
I would say that these recommendations for conditions don't materially change the eligibility plan, but further enhance it and could be fleshed out during the site plan review.
Okay. All right. If anyone else doesn't have any comments or concerns, are we ready for a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we recommend approval to the Board of Trustees for the PUD option for the St. John's Town's PUD development, provided that the outstanding items are submitted to the township for review prior to consideration by the Board of Trustees. That includes the traffic impact memorandum be provided, and that a revised PUD eligibility plan be provided, which notes the 7 items in the planner's report, including the 8-foot walkway up to 5 Mile.
And maybe you should add in a review of the feasibility of a boardwalk for that pathway.
Right, and the review of a feasibility of a boardwalk for that pathway. If that's not feasible, then some additional detail on what is proposed at Helm Street.
Is there support? Support. Okay. Moved by Commissioner Barberina and supported by Commissioner Berry to recommend approval of the PUD for St. John's Townhomes, application 2472, subject to said conditions. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Dennis, can you give me 2 minutes so we can get these folks some chairs?
Sure. Well, we appreciate your proposed investment in the township and wish you luck as we move through this process.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
This one's for Tim Hortons.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. You know, the diaspora. Well, it's a tradition. Well, we'll ask, we can ask.
That's my concern, is if go back to the PUD option, if
Okay, let me ask.
Very careful.
Bob, one of the gentlemen from the back row came up and said they're having, still having a hard time hearing us.
Okay.
All right.
Is there any way we can turn
All
off the
righty.
PA?
Yeah.
Well, I hope everyone got a seat that wanted a seat. But we will proceed with application 2472, the Spars Greenhouse conditional rezoning. And Ms. Howe, your report? Okay. Okay, we're going to take on Spars right now, and I've asked the planner to read her report.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Sobalski. Trustee Dershowitz, if you could please pull up the slide that I sent. Yeah, if you could keep going down, please.
And Ms. Howe,
Yes.
when you go through your report, if you could explain the process a bit for the folks so they understand the PUD and the conditional rezoning, so they're all aware of what we're trying to decide upon today.
Yes, I will. Okay, the next slide. Yes, thank you. I'd like to just orient everyone to the project area. So the area that is in red, that contains the subject site. There are 5 parcels that are contained within that, the Spars Greenhouse, and then 3 single-family properties. And in total, that's about 5 acres in size. And that's on the northwest corner of Joy Road and Lily Road. So to the south is Canton, and everything north of Joy, of course, is Plymouth Township. Now, these 5 properties, they are all zoned the single-family residential district. Even though there's a commercial operation across 2 of these parcels, the majority of the site, which contains Spars Greenhouse, which is a commercial property. So right away, we have what we call a nonconformity. This is a commercial property that's operating in a single-family residential district. The applicant would like to improve the greenhouse so that the business can continue to operate, but to reduce the scale of the greenhouse and improve the aesthetic, especially along Joy Road, to improve that frontage. And then to add some additional uses to this project area, which would include commercial at the corner, at the very corner of Joy and Lily Road. And then to add several apartment buildings to the north of that. So this would be a mixed-use development. that would have a smaller version of spars, some apartment buildings, and the commercial component at the very corner. We don't have a plan for that proposal at this time because they're not required to provide one at this stage in the process. They would seek that development through the PUD, the planned unit development that we just saw with the Inn at St. John's. And at that time, they would have to provide a similar proposal with all those details. However, because this property is zoned single family, they can't even propose the PUD at this time because you can't have a PUD on single family land. So the applicant is requesting to conditionally rezone the property to the C2, the general commercial, which would allow them to apply for the PUD and to go through that process. So it's one step before even applying for the PUD is to submit the request to the C2 district, which is what is before the Planning Commission tonight. And the Planning Commission is going to hold the public hearing, and ultimately they make a recommendation to the Board of Trustees on that rezoning to the C2 district. If it's approved by the Board of Trustees at a future meeting to the C2 district, then the applicant could continue on and apply for the planned unit development, at which time there would be additional notices that would be mailed out, and there would be another public hearing, and the PUD process would start. The applicant, this is one very important thing to note, the applicant has proposed this to be conditionally rezoned, which means that this rezoning to the C2 district is tied to the PUD application that they would then submit in the future. If that were to fail, if their PUD plan was to not be approved, then the land would have to revert back to the single-family zoning. So that gives the township a sense of security, a guarantee, in that this applicant could not zone the property to the C2 district and then tomorrow turn around and sell it to Chick-fil-A. They would not be allowed to do that. The property would go back to the single-family zoning that it is today. So there's some assurances built in because the applicant is offering this conditional rezoning to the C2 district, that there would be a publicly vetted process for the development of spars and the commercial and the apartments that would follow. Are there any questions on the commission on that process at this time before I go into the review? Okay, so the only decision that's being requested here by the applicant tonight is to conditionally rezone it to the C2 district, and that's a recommendation to the Board of Trustees. If that's approved, then they could continue with the planned unit development.
And there'll be another public hearing for the PUD.
Of course, yes.
So this is just a chance for them to make their case.
Yes, because they cannot apply to put a PUD on a single family property. It has to have a commercial or an industrial underlying zoning, which the Inn at St. John's had an industrial underlying zoning district.
But they could apply for a rezoning of the parcel that the greenhouses are sitting on, only that parcel if they wanted to just improve the greenhouses, right?
Correct, but they have a desire to do a mixed-use development on this site.
Right.
Yes.
Can they improve the Spars greenhouse without a rezoning?
They cannot enlarge the footprint or make certain improvements beyond X% because it is a non-conforming.
But they're talking about making it smaller. Would they be able to do that without the rezoning?
Yes, if they wanted to expand the footprint perhaps in the opposite direction though, such the property kind of at the corner there, that has some greenhouse components on it, but not much. If they wanted to add to that, that would not be permitted because they would be expanding the footprint.
So 3 of the parcels have houses on them currently, right? And one part, the corner parcel is vacant and the other one has greenhouses on it.
Correct. Yes.
Laura, is it common for us on a rezoning to make a decision like that without more of a conceptual plan from the developer as to what he or she is proposing, including where the for instance, in this case, where the apartments would be located along the land, and where the commercial space would be?
Yes, because it has to go through the PUD process, and that's really a 4-step process, the PUD eligibility plan would dictate the layout of the site. And it would still not follow, if the PUD plan was denied, then this would revert back to the single family.
Plus, there's always a danger when we rezone a piece of property and they show us a pretty building or whatever. Sometimes you don't get that. So with this application, the way it's structured, there is a sort of an insurance policy that something will go in there, then we'll have a chance to look at it. And there's more flexibility with a PUD than there would be just a straight rezoning.
So Laura, in a C2 district, how tall can a building be?
Have to look that up really quick.
Would it be similar to a 2-story house or a 3-story house?
Believe so. It would be 35 feet.
Okay.
Which is the maximum height in the residential districts here in Plymouth Township.
Okay, thank you.
Repeat that, please?
The maximum height of a structure in the commercial district is 35 feet, and that, yes. And that's the same, 35 feet is the maximum building height in all of the township's residential districts, even the single-family residential. They're all 35 feet is the maximum height.
So in other words, right now, he's saying, you know, I don't understand this. I've been in construction for 50 years as a plumber. I know builders. I've worked industrial, commercial, and everything. You mean to tell me this person who purchased this is just gonna say, yeah, we're gonna build some single family things here, or we're gonna build apartments? He doesn't have a plan even in his head of saying, hey, we're gonna have 2-story.
We're getting into a discussion without hearing, we're getting the lay of the land right now, so just hold your comments and your questions, and we have to hear from the individual as well. So perhaps he'll answer some of those questions that you have right now. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Laura.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, if we could go to the next slide. This shows the roadway jurisdictions in the township and their level of service indicated by color. And this is a bit zoomed out. You can see the freeways, of course, are in the purple and the blue. But Joy Road there at the bottom is green. That's a minor arterial road. And then Lily Road is also a minor arterial road, which is the same as Ann Arbor Road, directly west of Beck. This means that these roads at the intersection of this development are equipped to handle an increase in traffic that would generate.
You don't live in the neighborhood, you would never know.
Okay, Dennis? Yeah, you know, I asked you earlier on how we're going to conduct this meeting, and this is not the way we're going to conduct the meeting. You haven't even heard all the facts yet, and if you disagree, that's fine. Come up and then tell us about it, and we'll see what we can do about it, if anything. We don't, the township does not control the roads, so that's the very first thing that a lot of people aren't aware of. So let's try to remain silent here. I know there's a lot of emotions about it. We understand that, we appreciate it, but we got to get the facts out on the table before we can react.
And you can get more flies with honey than you can with vinegar. Outbursts don't help your case.
Be honest.
Thank you. As part of the planned unit development, when the applicant would submit a plan for their proposal, there would be a traffic impact study at that time. However, these roads are equivalent to other roads in the township that are designed to accommodate a mix of uses, not just single family. That does not mean that there would not be improvements required by Wayne County. I think this intersection has gone for a long time without improvements. But this is an opportunity to rectify that and improve the area. The next slide shows a cutout of the township's master plan. You can see there where the letter A is. This is a snip from the township's adopted 2015 future land use map. And the property is planned for medium density residential with office at the corner. The area in black, which encompasses the entire project area, also has a secondary designation that was granted in 2015. That states that this area, with any proposed development, should achieve stability for the area, assemble the individual parcels for redevelopment, and ensure compatibility in the design and function with abutting land uses. The development proposal for mixed use to reduce the commercial aspect of SPARs, to add commercial directly on the corner area, and then to provide a multifamily housing product as it transitions to single family does accomplish these three items as identified in the master plan that was adopted almost 10 years ago by the township. Our review goes through the rezoning criteria that are outlined in the township's zoning ordinance. And based on this proposal and the assurances that the township would be receiving as a conditional rezoning to the C2 district, because of the interest in developing it as a mixed-use development under a PUD, we recommend approval of this. This is a recommendation to the Board of Trustees. They are the ultimate deciders on a rezoning. Our recommendation starts at the bottom of page 4. And our findings state that we find the proposal consistent with the stated goals of the 2015 master plan to encourage a variety of housing typologies and residential living environments to accommodate a diversity of ages and incomes, to establish an appropriate transition between the major commercial corridor of Joy Road and Lily Road with the existing single-family residential development to the north and northwest. The rezoning would result in SPAR's flowers and greenhouse becoming a legally conforming use and would support improvements to an outdated and dilapidated structure in some respects. And lastly, would likely encourage maintenance to the existing character of the other adjacent subject sites that are part of this development. As a rezoning, a public hearing is required to be held by the Planning Commission, which would be the next step this evening.
Okay. And is the applicant here?
Yes.
Okay, come up and give us your presentation.
Hello, everyone. My name is Najee Kala. I'm the owner of the corner, essentially. I have a business partner who can't make it with us tonight because he's not feeling well, so, yeah.
And I'm Scott Wright. I'm the architect working with the owner on the project. I can't say it much better than what Laura did. We have taken a look at the corner and have some basic ideas of what we want to do. She expressed those very well. The owner wants...
You'll have to face the mic because then it doesn't get picked up.
You have this.
Yeah, you're right. The owner wants to keep SPARs. He wants to keep the flower shop. He wants to keep the greenhouses. We have talked about removing the older, seriously dilapidated greenhouses to the north of the commercial building or the old house that functions as the sales office. And then the furthest north home is in pretty extreme disrepair, so that was also purchased as part of this. And then the very corner of Joy Road and Lily Road makes perfect sense for small commercial, of which we're looking at 6,500 square feet, possible drive-through of some type of business there. And then the balance of that property, we're proposing multifamily. Think something similar to the new apartments that went in on Main Street in Plymouth. That type of look, that type of modern, contemporary, slightly industrial, higher-end apartments um, for this corner. We want people to kind of go, wow, when they come in from Canton and north into Plymouth and they see what we want to do with the corner. We're looking at having significant open space, green spaces, outdoor play areas, a walking path around the property, possibly tying it into the neighborhood. We want it to be part of the neighborhood. We don't want to set it apart from the neighborhood. So that's the idea of the multifamily buffering, single family from the roads and the commercial that's there. So that's where we're at with this. And before we can really go further, we've got to get this step moving forward. And again, if the project doesn't go forward, it reverts back to residential. But the goal is to do a nice family project in the corner here with some commercial.
So are these houses occupied?
Yes.
People living in them?
Yes.
Okay.
The renters, I think.
These two here. So the two houses not the northernmost house, but the two houses closest to Lily, those are being rented. That one is actually under, we're finalizing the sale as we speak. So that one's still being occupied by the previous owner. I want to say something because I'm sensing a little bit of tension. And so we bought the property to make improvements. We inherited a lot of issues. And essentially what we're trying to do is show you that we're on the same team, right? That corner, we want to, put a welcome to Plymouth sign, just enhance it the best we can and make it so it's a lot better than what it is. And yes, to answer your question, sir, we did think about how many stories we can go up. We got a lot of thought into this and a lot of monies as well. I just want to kind of reiterate the fact that and emphasize we are on the same team. That corner right now does not look great, and we just want to make it get better. So, yeah.
Anything else? Because what we'll do now is we will open the public hearing and then pay attention to what the people have to say. We'll be taking notes up here, and you should be taking the notes as well so that we can respond back to them. Good. Glad you got your pencil out. All right. Thank you. Well, you can answer. You can ask it when we open the public hearing. So we'll open the public hearing at 8:01, and we do have some letters that we received. And I'm going to ask the secretary to tell us the names of the people that sent these letters, and if they're in the audience tonight, they can tell us if they want us to read the letter or they're just going to speak to us what they had placed in the letter.
Excuse me. So one is from Kimberly Zulke and James Stelma.
Are you here?
Are they here?
Okay. We'll have to read that now.
That's for a different project. And then the other one is Jimmy Zieslag and Christy. I'm sorry if I'm destroying your names. Okay, so she's here.
Okay, so you want us to read the letter, or you would rather come up? Oh, okay, we'll read it.
And then the third one was from the organization Friends of the Rouge. And is anybody here from Friends of the Rouge? Okay. All right, so I will start with the first one.
Yes.
Those were the only letters sent?
Yeah.
Yes.
My wife sent. I sent an email.
Did you send it to the planning department? Where did you send it?
I'm sorry?
Where did you send the email to?
I went to the website, your website, and it says you can write an email regarding it, and that's where it's from.
You know where that goes? We didn't receive it.
Well, we'd be happy to receive your statement.
Yeah, but you can say something. All right.
Okay. Then I apologize if I'm not pronouncing people's names correctly. This first one says, "We, Kimberly Zulke and James Stelma, residents of 42570 Revere Avenue, stand in opposition to the application to conditionally rezone Spars Greenhouse, 42510 Joy Road, from R1 to C2. We contest this as this use's classification is different and inconsistent with the surrounding area.
at odds with the 2015 master plan and is an example of spot zoning that would be to the detriment of the surrounding community. We recognize that this is the obligation of the township to pursue redevelopment of land, but also that redevelopment must fit into the context of the existing environment. Plymouth Township should maintain a well-balanced community, not only by percentage calculations across the total land mass, but by recognizing the current land use in proposed redevelopment areas. With our current R1 zoning, our neighborhood represents a medium-density subdivision with consistently zoned land to the south and west, flanked by R2A multiple-family residential to the north and east. The proposed rezoning and subsequent redevelopment will increase traffic at an already high-volume intersection, Lily at Joy, 10%, it's up 10% since 2012. Change the character of our neighborhood by building on what is currently privately owned open space with a robust tree canopy, and strain the resources available within our schools. A strength of our community is access to high-performing public schools. The PCCS website boasts a student-teacher ratio of 22-1, while the class sizes of my current 5th and 2nd graders are at 25 and 22 respectively. Smith Elementary would become the home school of future families in the proposed redevelopment, and East Middle School would bear the influx of students from this and the already approved 373-unit Elks Lodge redevelopment. In the proposed 2025 master plan, the authors recognize that the residents of Plymouth Township have, quote, long prioritized the quality of their community, particularly the quality of residential life, the natural environment, and of the schools and other public services, unquote. The spot zoning of a commercial mixed-use redevelopment of land historically classified as R1 compromises each of these aspects for the residents of our subdivision. Quote, attracting family-forming and young professional households, unquote, was stated as an important objective in the proposed 2025 master plan, and yet this proposal destroys 3 existing single-family dwellings while simultaneously ignoring the 2020 community survey responses favoring housing options, i.e. the bungalow court, that would expand the township's supply of missing middle housing within the R2 designation. Rezoning these parcels to C2 allows for development that is unpredictable in size and scope. It neglects to preserve the current open space and offers no protection for a gentle transition between the existing single-family dwellings and land proposed as future mixed use. We appreciate the vibrancy of our neighborhood in the current state and seek to preserve this in the future. Thus, we ask for your support in denying the rezoning application. And this is the second one. We, Jimmy Cieslag and Christy Pykuch, owners and residents of 9001 North Lily Road, respectively oppose rezoning property known as Spars Greenhouse, located at 42510 Joy Road, from R1 to C2. We feel the rezoning does not appeal to stakeholders, support the 2025 master plan, or protect residential character of the surrounding neighborhood. We understand that it is the aim of Plymouth Township to redevelop land use to maximize growth opportunity. The rezoning from R1 to C2 does not offer adequate transition between zones, nor does it preserve the charm and safety of the neighboring subdivision and stakeholders. Proposed rezoning by Spars Greenhouse includes demolishing 3 single-family homes. This plan does not support gentle transition between the proposed C2 rezoning of Spars and the adjacent residential homes, nor does it preserve or enhance the existing tree canopy or open spaces. Page 57 of the master plan discusses placemaking by preserving the character and safety of the community. In points 4 and 5, the overuse of commercial property at every intersection should be avoided. Rezoning of Spars could increase traffic accidents and create unsightly conditions, example, parking lots, signs, and lights. Additionally, rezoning Spars will adversely impact the living environment of the surrounding neighborhood by increasing traffic on Positive Drive, Apple Creek Drive, and Revere Avenue, along with increased noise and light pollution. This proposal significantly devalues the image of the existing community by locating commercial real estate exceptionally close to an otherwise quiet residential neighborhood. Such development could have an extremely negative impact on local property values. On page 20 of the 2025 master plan, it is stated, the Ann Arbor Road Corridor is the township's downtown development authority and the main commercial district within the community. The booming commercial business district of Ann Arbor Road is less than 1 mile from SPAR's location and provides ample opportunity for dining, shopping, and for future commercial development. Therefore, it is not necessary for commercial development to impose on residential neighborhoods outside of the DDA. Finally, regarding schools, it is stated on page 37 of the master plan that Plymouth Township is serviced by an excellent public school system. The main deciding factor of our home purchase 3 years ago was the award-winning Plymouth Canton schools with exceptional teacher-to-student ratios and small class sizes. We are deeply concerned that this accelerated development of the township is experiencing would outpace the capabilities of the schools to handle such growth. Overwhelming our schools could lead to overcrowded classrooms and/or unfavorable changes in district lines and zoning. It is our sincere request that the property known as SPAR's Greenhouse remain Zone R1 and future efforts to increase commercial development at Joy and Lily be prevented. We support improvements that positively impact our community without damaging the charm that attracted us to Plymouth Township and specifically our lovely neighborhood. And then the third email was from Friends of the Rouge. Friends of the Rouge has become aware of a developer has purchased the old SPAR's Greenhouse, corner of Joy and Lily, and the single-family home north of SPAR's at 8925 Lily Road. We understand that the developer is asking Plymouth Township permission to demolish the 3 single-family homes along Lily and several of the greenhouses on the north side of the property to construct a retail development at the corner of Joy and Lily, along with an apartment complex and paved parking lots, all within a quarter mile of Tonquish Creek. All of the land is currently zoned single-family residence, R1. We understand that in order to accomplish the aforementioned plans, the developer is requesting that the zoning be changed to C2 commercial. Redevelopment of this parcel will result in vegetation removal and creation of additional impervious surfaces that can lead to increased sedimentation and unstable flows in Tonquish Creek. These conditions are detrimental to the aquatic biota that live in Tonquish Creek. Friends of the Rouge is a nonprofit 501c3 organization founded in 1986 to raise awareness about the need to clean up the Rouge River. In existence for 37 years, we operate under the mission to restore, protect, and enhance the Rouge River watershed through stewardship, education, and collaboration. We envision a future where a clean and vibrant Rouge River is the center of our community. Individual and community actions protect and improve the health of the Rouge River, assuring that its natural, economic, and recreational value enhances the quality of life in the Rouge River ecosystem. It is with our mission in mind that we address you in this letter to express our concern regarding the aforementioned potential development. Friends of the Rouge ask that the Plymouth Township Planning Commission to act cautiously when considering this new development. Please consider the consequences of removal of vegetation within the floodplain and replacing it with a more impervious surfaces. Due to the proximity of Tonquish Creek and its unique importance as an ecological resource, Friends of the Rouge recommends implementing strong green infrastructure practices that can mitigate stormwater impact to adjacent communities and creek. Thank you for taking the time to consider our comments.
Okay, with that, we'll open it up to those present. So whoever wants to address the commission, just step forward and give us your name and address if you so desire.
My name is Ken Phillips. I live at 9060 Tucson Street. I believe our street is the smallest street in this township. It dead ends right into my neighbor's property. At the end of my driveway is what they call a water gate, because years ago, Mr. James Bonadale, who passed away, but he wanted to take my next door neighbor's property and put that right through. There's a water gate valve right at the end of my driveway. If you people want to dig it up, go ahead. You know, that's your right. But what I'm against right now is the person that purchased this property, and now he has an architect, and they can't tell me if they're going to put a ranch home in there, apartment buildings, or anything. So that's what I don't get. I know they have something in mind, but yet they're not saying anything. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, excuse me. My name is Wendy Harless. I live at 11677 Morgan Avenue, but I'm here tonight representing my family that owns the property at 8959 Lily Road, which if you look at this map, see the top yellow line? That's my property line. So what they're proposing to put in here does not fit at all with the neighborhood. That property has been zoned R1 residential for decades. I think everybody here assumed that when Spars finally did retire and the property was sold, it would be single-family homes, which would be more fitting with our neighborhood. I'm glad Friends of the Rouge sent a letter because I don't know that people really realize, but this is the floodplain for Tonquitch Creek. It's not just the watershed, it's the floodplain. And the water table is very high on all of these properties. So, for instance, the property next door, you've changed the slide, but 8925, they had water, 3 inches of water in their basement for several months last year because the sump pump stopped working. So it's like a continual battle. And I bet most of the people here have a sump pump. You have to constantly be pumping the water out. The other topic I wanted to bring up is that retail on the corner that they're proposing, and the letter that was written cites the page where in the master plan for 2025, it says we should not be putting retail on every major corner. I think everybody here is probably going to talk about the traffic. The traffic is absolutely ridiculous on Lily. I cannot get in and out of the driveway anytime during rush hour. I could sit at the end of my driveway with the turn signal on, and people just pull in front of me like I don't exist. I don't know if they're looking at their phones or their computers or what, but retail, if you Google available retail space for rent in the 48170 area, there are 5 retail commercial properties within 1 mile of the intersection of Joy and Lily that are currently open to be rented. Do we really want to create more retail that sits vacant, that we don't have a customer for? I think everybody is pretty aware that brick and mortar stores are a dying breed. So I can't see putting retail on this corner. My dad is a disabled Vietnam veteran, and they're talking about putting multiple story apartments right next door to him, completely doing away with any privacy that we would have while we try to enjoy our backyard. So I am opposed to changing it to commercial. It's just too big of a jump from single family to commercial. There's no buffer whatsoever.
Which house is it?
We're at 8959 Lily Road.
Is that this one here?
No.
This one?
Yes, the trees are
North of them.
Here.
The trees are around it. It's hard to. We
Oh.
have a lot of mature trees.
Oh, here it is. Okay, yeah.
So 8925 is in bad shape. I mean, it needs some help, definitely. Like I said, it's had water in the basement. But if they're going to demolish it, I would rather see another single-family home replace it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Cindy Morin. I live at 42434 Apple Creek Drive. Me and my husband and I live in Plymouth Estates. We are the neighborhood that is right before the Plymouth Manor apartments right there. I'm going to piggyback on what that young lady there was talking about, the flooding. The flood area, for me, she is correct in saying about the flood zone, the Tonquitch Creek there. There is a huge flood zone. Tonquitch Creek backs up against our entire neighborhood there. I can't speak to exactly the whole flooding there because I live on Apple Creek there. But that Tonquitch Creek goes back across the entire neighborhood right there. The homes back there have a huge, divot there or whatever that is there, that your view, that the creek goes up there. I know a friend of mine who had a home back there that I was watching, and it is probably, what, 6 foot or something like that? During a very heavy rainfall, it came up over that and into her yard. She was afraid it was going to take away the shed. It was like the Mississippi River as it was coming up over it. Is it? Okay, you can say better than I.
Oh, okay.
The rage of the water was incredible because when it's down, it looks like just a little subtle little, easy little stream. Our back there on Hackberry, there is an area there where the water gets so high within the streets there. There was a car there, it was probably like last year or so, where the car went through and it got stuck because it flooded the engine in there and it had to sit there for days. So that flood area, she's not lying there. That is really an awful place there. C2. Now, C2 is typically designated for larger businesses. C2 is on Ann Arbor Road. You have in your plan here, C2 is designated, like you've got in your plan here, Olive Garden. You have that as an example as a C2 business. If you designate this property, which is R1, single family, as a C2 business, that just opens the way to larger businesses. I don't care if you're going to put multifamily or small office business. If you start and say this is C2, that just opens the door for it, especially since they don't have a plan. This is just going to open the door for larger businesses. Within a residential area, you are supposed to have, as according to your plan, and as you stated, multifamily and office business are supposed to be an easement between heavy use areas. CT would be one of those heavier use plans. We have apartment buildings on the other side of our apartments between us and like the dealership there on Ann Arbor Road. That is our easement. Where you're putting this or want to put the C2 area is all residential. Residential goes all the way through.
You'll have to start wrapping up because I've given you a few seconds after 3 minutes.
Okay. Traffic.
That's it. You'll have to come back after everyone else has had a chance to speak. No, that's it. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Paula Bowman. My husband and I, Gordon, live at 9,000 North Lily Road. We are directly across the street, so we're on the east side across the road. We have lived there since 1975. We have apartments to the east of us and to the north of us. There are 8 buildings there, probably 9 or 10 units in each of those buildings. And then across the street on Plastiff, on the Spar side, further north, there is another batch of multifamily buildings. So there are plenty of apartments already in this area, all of them egress onto Lily Road. Since we have lived there, the traffic has increased exponentially because of residential and commercial development. Currently, it is almost impossible for us to get out of our driveway onto Lily Road, even when we're making a right turn. God forbid it should be a left turn. And we see the people, a lot of whom are here in the subdivision across the street, having the same experience. Cars get backed up on Revere because they just can't get out of the sub. We fear that with the new multifamily apartment complex on that corner and a proposed drive-through commercial business on the corner, that is just going to lead to even worse traffic problems. And while we think that if that happens, we're fearful that Lily Road may be widened someday, that is not the solution here. The solution is to deny the rezoning request. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you could please not applaud, we just would like to quietly listen to everyone and what everyone's thoughts and ideas are. But applauding, cheering, it's very distracting. We're just focused on what you people have come to talk to us about tonight. We're interested in what you have to say. We really are, and we really appreciate everyone coming out tonight. But if we could just keep it quiet in between the comments, we would appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, my name's Mike Saharsky, and I've only been a resident of Plymouth for 3 years, Plymouth Township. I'm at 8971 Hackberry. I'm on the court that the proposed zoning is at, yeah. Those houses in the court in that area, in the perimeter of it, are all open backyards. There's young children, I mean young children, that are going to grow up to be good citizens here, that are going to be exposed to an apartment type living. There's no barrier between what's going to be proposed and those homes or those residents. Coming out on Revere Street, at this point in time, there needs to be a red light there, whether it be the township problem or the county problem. I think the proposed people need to address that if the board decides to make this decision. Also, coming out of there, you have to make a right turn, because to make a left turn and head to Ann Arbor Road is almost impossible at certain times of the day. Morning rush hour and later in the afternoon when the kids get out of school because of the school buses, because there's so many apartments there now, and of course our subdivision, the buses are stopping along there. So when you make your right and you go to Lilly, you got to wait in a line right now from Revere to Lilly to make your right turn. So you would need to put an approach to make a right turn on Lilly and widen. I'm sorry, on Joy Road. You'd need to make a turn lane to go to Joy Road and make a right off of Lilly in order to clear the traffic. I'm really happy that the St. John project was here the same day that this is, because St. John's project is obviously a project that's going to improve Plymouth Township. It's going to add property value. It's in an area that doesn't affect residential people. And this, I think, is a project where somebody's buying property, those two houses that they're talking about taking down. There's nothing wrong with those homes. They're residential homes. They're very nice ranch homes. And they want to take them down. I think what you got going on here is harvesting property for profit. And I also think that, isn't there a boundary area from residential to commercial zoning? Or can you build right up against a residential property? That's a question I have.
Okay, we'll answer that question, and thank you very much, because your 3 minutes is more than.
Okay, all right.
Thanks for coming in.
All right.
Thank you.
My name is Gwen Mild-Miller. I wanted to apologize for my outburst, but when you don't live in the area, you don't know the traffic. I live at 8831 Manton, which is across the creek, right in the first house on Manton. So traffic is already bad. One Joy at certain times of the day. Plymouth Christian Academy gets out anywhere from 2 to 4. I mean, all that time, and they only are allowed to turn right. Supposedly, they turn onto me and turn around. So my concern is, if you put in a drive-through over here of any sort on that corner, we're just going to get more people turning around, because
you will only be able to turn right into that drive-through, and you will only be able to turn right out of Lily into the drive-through, out of the drive-through onto Lily, because you cannot turn left there. And it's actually illegal, even if it's clear, because that's the site across the street at the gas station. That is the case, and the police watch it, so you're not going to get away with it. That's going to
You'll have to pace the mic because people can't hear you.
That would cause more people coming onto our streets, which is Manton, Rocker, and Morrison, to make their turnarounds. It's a horrible place to put a business that's going to have a drive-through because you can't get out and turn left. You already, and traffic between anywhere, well, Detroit traffic. So you got rush hour, that's what, 6 until 9 because of schools. And then you've got later traffic, rush hour, that's 3 until 6, 7. You cannot, if I'm coming from Canton on Lily and I want to turn left to go to my home, onto Joy, I wait till the light turns red and I try to beat the other red traffic coming from on Joy to make my turn because there is no turn light there, which has been desperately needed for years. If you're on Lily coming from Mill and you want to just get home from work, you're in a line for probably 10 to 15 minutes, am I not right? Because that is how long it takes to get everybody through that light and in time to get home. So the traffic has been very, very, I want the word, but I can't reach it, but just errors in its information, that traffic is very heavy. And even if you go during the day on Lily, turning left out of, like, say, the doctor's offices that are behind by the liquor store, good luck. Because it's only a 2-lane road. And there's traffic coming all day. And that's all I have to say. I won't go over my 3 minutes. I do apologize for my outburst because you really have to live there to know what happens.
Thank you.
My name's John Sador, live at 9020 Hackberry. I'll try not to repeat what other people have said, but I respectfully request that the conditional zoning application be denied. I purchased the property at 9020 Hackberry 41 years ago, and I've lived there in 41 years until this couple of months ago. I never even saw traffic on Lily Avenue. They've already started taking out dirt. They've cut down trees. I get to see it now, all the greenhouses and everything. Mrs. Spire made a mistake about 5 years ago when she cut down some major trees that were blocking the greenhouses there from getting light. My backyard, as the neighbors can tell you, we've got deer coming through, we've got rabbits, woodchuck, probably a couple dozen different species of birds that are in the area. They're going to cut down the rest of the trees. They're going to build an apartment complex there. There's not going to be any wildlife there any longer. I don't really appreciate then, right now I can use my backyard, I can use my deck without having somebody from a second or third story window looking over a wall or a berm into residential houses that we have. I'll skip over the traffic. The Tompkins Creek problem was kind of covered by friends of the Rouge. East of, basically east of where the airport is, that's all industrial between there and Hagerty. Then you go west from Lily, there is no commercial businesses. The only thing that's on there in the rest of Plymouth Township is you've got a credit union. We don't need to build it up. We've got the Ann Arbor Road corridor, and there's stuff on Ann Arbor Road that isn't being used. Last night I started checking about online, and I was just wondering if you guys do due diligence before you actually accept a conversion over from R1 to C2. When I was looking last night, the state of Michigan gave MCY Investments LLC, they incorporated it on 9/16/2021. In the last 18 months, has this company done any business with the city, with the township of Plymouth, to show that they're a good development. I'm not disparaging anybody, I just have questions. Now, taking a look at the township of Plymouth's property taxes. Property taxes were due in those, basically on 3 of those 4 properties. It should have been paid by March 1st of this year. They were due the 14th of February. March 1st, they're turned over to the county. There was almost $6,000 owed on that property for this year. Going back, the last 9 to 10 years, there's a total of $127,000 owed in property taxes on that. I realize it was bought as on a land contract recently, but will the viability of Spar's greenhouse still be there? If they've run up this kind of a tax liability based on the township records, that Spar's won't even be there any longer. You're going to look at taking it, moving it to C2, and coming up with a PUD later on. They'll knock down Spar's because Spar's isn't going to be there. And build what, a fourth or a 5th building there?
You've gone over your 3 minutes, but I compliment you for coming up with some different ideas. I mean, we certainly have gotten the message about the traffic and the flood, so
I also
thank
would
you.
like this to be added into the record. I've got a list of 77 people, most of which are not here, who also do not want the change from R1.
Just leave it with Ms. Howell, and she'll take it.
Thank you.
Thanks again. Ma'am, you can't come back up until, you can after everyone else has had a chance. We'll be glad to hear you again after everybody else has had their chance. Yeah, you can come up. If you have a different thought, again, yeah, well, no, yes, that's fine. We'll hear it, but I'm talking to this lady to see if she has a different thought from what the letter contained. Thank you.
Christy, I live at 9001 North Lily, next to Miss Harless's property and Kent's property. I met Mr. Najim today. He's a very nice man, and I do appreciate that he is willing and interested in updating the area because, as many of us see as we drive by, it could use some improvement. Sure. I would also like to take a moment to thank Laura because she fielded a phone call of mine earlier in the week that was flooded with many questions, and she took the time to really speak to me about a lot of the facts regarding this project, and that is something that I appreciate from the township. My house is, like I said, at North Lily, at the corner of Lily and Revere. So we face Lily Road. My backyard is into the subdivision. My son's bus stop is at the corner of Lily and Revere. And I know we've heard a lot about traffic, but I stand at that bus stop every day and watch the traffic go by. What resonated with me and Mr. Najim's project was that he mentioned creating access from our neighborhood to this proposed commercial property. And no one here can tell me that that won't lead to more traffic within our small residential neighborhood where speed limits are 25 miles per hour. Not only does my son use the bus stop at the corner of Lily and Revere, but he, along with many other children in the neighborhood, ride their bikes and run and play and rollerblade and play basketball on those streets and sidewalks. And my number one concern is that developing that land as commercial and connecting it to our subdivision would potentially detrimentally increase traffic flow through our neighborhood. One solution mentioned was widening Lily Road, which would directly impact my front property, which is already sort of noisy as we see traffic go by that does not obey the speed limit very often. So it would be my sincere request that we take a closer look at this proposal and please consider allowing this property to remain residential. And hopefully Spires can continue as a wonderful, viable business, but we would also like to preserve the charm of the neighborhood and the safe direction of the neighborhood there. So thank you.
I have one question for you. So you mentioned the school bus stops at Revere and Lily. Where does it actually stop, on Lily or Revere?
On Revere. The bus
Okay.
stops on Revere, but it also stops on Lily Road for the apartments that are across the street. So there is bus access on Lily Road as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Heather Trinkle. I live at 9032 Hacker Avenue, so I'm almost to the little turnaround on the court, basically. I'm like one house away from being on the court. And I'm here as a mom. I have an 8-month-old daughter that's sleeping in the back with my neighbor Katie and a 4.5-year-old. And I already deal with the traffic, having young children in our front yard playing. When the road is backed up, people try and cut through and they fly around the roundabout. There are children playing in the front yard. So when you're gonna add commercial, my concern is you're gonna add more people trying to cut through there, not knowing there's no through a road. And they do not care about the speed. They drive 45 and then zip around near all of our children playing. I mean, there is a number of young children in our neighborhood now. The demographics have kind of shifted in the past few years from older population to a lot of young families. So the nature of the community there is just, it's different than it could be when you're adding an apartment complex. So we don't really know what this development could turn into. So we're just concerned about just the safety of our children. And when I did some research into zoning, there is more crime in mixed use or commercial than a residential neighborhood. So no one can also tell me what the crime impact is going to be by adding unknown people in an unknown number of apartment buildings. We don't know what the impact is, because as John mentioned, we have no fencing there right now. It's open backyards. We're all very friendly. Our kids play together. To me, it's the unknown with having young children. So I just want to voice that here. So thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Hello, my name is Kevin Gens. I live on 4254 Poster Avenue. That's all seen to make. What do you call progress historian or are unique in Plain Little Town, City of Plymouth and Plymouth Township? When my wife and I first came into Plymouth long ago, we were dating. We knew we wanted to live here. We had our wedding reception at the Mayflower Meeting House, and across the street was a fine hotel on the corner of Main Street and a trail called the Mayflower Hotel. We all know now it's long been torn down and replaced with a condo. The place where Saxons was not going to be condos. House Club is going to be torn down along with the trees to be more condos. Everywhere we look, there are less trees and more condos going up. We call this progress. More traffic downtown. It seems that small downtown area and areas around Plymouth are going to be just a memory of what it used to be. There used to be a sign when entering Plymouth that read, "Welcome to Plymouth, the city of trees." Many mansions are being built next to small family homes. Now they're putting up condos in people's backyards on the corner of Joy Road and Lily, where shopping centers causing more traffic in the streets of Plymouth Township. It's now going to be harder to get to Lily Road, our subdivision, the smallest in Plymouth Township. Our subdivision is shaped like a horseshoe. There are only 2 roads entering and exit our sub. There are currently single-family homes on Lily, and it should stay that way. With more condos in Plymouth, it is going to be a memory of what it once was. I have to ask you, the board of members of Plymouth, how are you going to be remembered? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm James Allen. Excuse me. Yep. Custody speaking publicly. Wife and I have lived 1981
We should put the number of signatures on it.
1981 backs up to Thomas Creek. So all the stuff that's already been said, I'm not going to repeat. Yes, it's true. The traffic is not just in the morning, in the evening when people get off of work, it's lunch, or if it's activity, you kind of sit far or whatever. That traffic's there. Just want to say that I'm opposed to this rezoning. Excuse me.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Terry Degas. I live at 42600 Revere. I bought my house in 2017 because straight across from me, there's no houses. I don't have to look at brick. I bought it because I don't want to see brick. I don't want to see apartment complex. How do we know what the drive-through is going to be? I don't want rats or mice if it's going to be a restaurant. That goes with restaurants, drive-throughs. We've got enough wildlife where we are, thank you. Also, we've all seen cities with poor planning, just for the money. Canton. I was in a bad accident on Ford Road. We all know what Ford Road's like. At Ford and Lilly, I was in a bad accident because of poor city planning. Those cops see it every day. That's going to happen. This is ridiculous. I'm just saying, common sense. It's not about the buck for me. I'll move. I don't want to see it. I oppose it. I'd like you to too.
Hi, my name is Sharon Phillips, and I live at 9060 Tucson Street. And we've been there for 44 years. I don't get emotional, but there's a reason why. It's the neighborhood, the closeness. I look out my kitchen window and I see stars because the two long pieces of property are right next to us. And it's just brought me so much comfort all these years to just see open space where there's a lack of it throughout many communities. And I love the privacy. We raised 2 children. I taught in the district for 28 years. And it means so much to me to be able to stay there. But I guess I was so happy when I saw you fixing up the pergola, and there were dead trees being trimmed, and they cleaned up those first 2 homes. You know, the guys worked all day, making leaves and everything.
You'll have to speak in the mic because it's hard to.
Okay, I was just really excited to see the improvements he's made already, and I really appreciate them. And I guess I would love to just see our neighborhood stay the same. When I looked on the website, the township website, 3 words just crashed in front of me, and it said, "People are our priority." And I ask you to please listen to everyone and our concerns, and to abide by that, hold people our priority. And thank you so much for letting us come here and talk.
Well, we appreciate you coming in. We really do.
Okay.
David Murray, 42580 Joy Road. Just last June, end of June, I bought the property right next to Sparse. So I'm the property directly to the to the west of Sparse, and back up behind a lot of the people that are there. And so I just would say that, again, I have been very pleasantly surprised, again, by the developers in what they have done behind, and I, as has been said just recently, just appreciate how they have done it. And I do think even inside of the property, they've done a lot of good work inside, and I appreciate all that. But the challenge, I also have 3 young children in the backyard, and so my biggest concern, one, is just with an apartment complex behind, not knowing what that looks like. And then also just with the C2 designation, it does seem a little too open-ended to not be very clear with what that is. I do appreciate the animals and all the quietness in the backyard. And so just kind of processing what that looks like, obviously with the unknown. I think one of the other young ladies said just the unknown of that is really kind of challenging for us in that community. But so yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
I live on Hackberry, and if one of our neighbors hadn't cared enough to put together a flyer and and deliver it to each one of our houses, we wouldn't have known what was going on. The supposed rezoning is Joy Road, but most of it's happening on Lily, which is right up against our subdivision. I would like to know why we weren't notified.
Laura, you want to explain how the noticing is done?
From the perimeter of the property, the subject area.
300, everyone who lives within 300 feet got a notice. Everyone who lives within 300 feet of the property that's under consideration did receive a notice.
Oh, it just didn't seem very fair that it has more effect on us, and we knew nothing about it if one of our neighbors didn't care enough. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak before I recognize this lady who's been patiently waiting? Okay. The floor is yours for 3 minutes.
I have no clock, so I don't know what my time is. As one of the other lovely ladies was up here, I've been a resident since '93. We were only going to be there 5 years. We're still there. Now, you had mentioned that Spars is a retail spot. You've got in your plan here, it's agricultural. Agricultural. So I kind of disagree with that. Road ratings. The entire area within that property got the poorest ratings available. It is poor, 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 poor. Both Joy and Lily and the surrounding areas, red, poor, all around there. It's crummy. The traffic in general has since 2016, that's about the best I could do, has risen dramatically. I've got Haggerty here as a guide. It has risen to about 2 Haggerty there. There was a dramatic 70% increase in 2021. I'm going to attribute that in my bestest ability here, but that is because of the building that was done on Mill and also on Lily Road with some of the building that was done there for housing. There was multiple housing that was done up there and also in Canton. There were some major housing developments that were done there. Retail. Everybody wants retail space. Huge, huge. I went around, there's huge space, lease all over the place. Up and down Lily Road, there is empty lots available, demolished 5 acres. There's places all over the place there. Also, multi-home housing, luxury apartments, townhouses, all kinds of crap, all over the place there. It's available. So, please don't remain.
Well, I have one question, though. You were talking about agriculture. What, can you put that in context?
You mentioned that Spars was a retail, and it was in competition with being in a residential zone.
It's a non-conforming use because it's a business in a residential.
Okay, well, your use, on one of your maps, you have it as agricultural. I found it online.
Because it's the land use plan.
Oh, the
It's
land
being
use.
used as
Oh,
land.
okay.
It's used as
On use.
agriculture.
It has use as agriculture, not as retail or office. It has agriculture.
Okay, gotcha.
And then within one of your reports, you want to do away with agriculture.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And the other thing is, with your plans, it's not just that one area. You want, I see here that it's not just that one area. It's all down Joy and all around Lily. It's not just that one little parcel. I see that this is just an open door. That C2 is going to open the door to all those. So my little neighborhood and Joy neighborhood is going to be a huge, huge area, and it's going to just segregate us into a little tiny little squished area.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay.
My name is Jan Malinak. I live at 9,000 Hanbury. I'm in the cul-de-sac that backs up to the property in question, and I'll make it quick. I just did some research the other day just to see how many apartments we have in Plymouth Township currently. Now, I'm off on my numbers, a couple of them, because I tried to get a hold of the offices, and they didn't return my call. But roughly, right now, and this is with the proposed Plymouth Walk, and I don't know how many people, or how many of you know that they're talking about almost 370 units going in there at the Alps property. A lot of people aren't aware of that. But if you include that, we're talking, and like I said, there's 2 properties I couldn't get a hold of. That was 1,225 units right there, and that's within a 3-mile range of where I'm at right now. So I don't think you need any more apartments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tom Dunn. I live on Hackberry, 9205. I have one question for the gentleman. They're going to keep the grow house or the...
No, you have to look at us because we'll be asking him the question. So what's your question?
My question is, if they're going to keep that as a flower shop, will that eventually turn into a grow house like we already have one in our neighborhood now? Does he plan on changing that business and eventually start growing the new business, new pot, marijuana? Is that in the future?
No. Okay, we'll ask that question.
It's something that I'm dealing with right now in the neighborhood. So that would be a concern to me.
Okay.
And we got a lot of little kids in there, in that neighborhood now. I think it will affect it.
Okay, thank you.
I didn't know I got a second crack at you
Oh,
guys.
yeah. You do.
If you could zone out and our whole subdivision on this photograph up here for me.
Could you repeat that, please?
Way up. Time to get Ann Arbor Road in there. Okay, stop there. If you notice those red buildings there, that's an apartment complex. But it's across the street from the subdivision. If you notice on this side, that's an apartment complex with industrial behind it and across from the subdivision. Where the Elk building is, I heard they're proposing apartments there. It makes sense. There's no subdivision. This will be a good footprint for the planning department. You've done a great job. There's no apartments adjacent to residential. Don't start it now. It doesn't make sense. And I invite every one of you to come into our subdivision. Get out of the car, walk around. I'm sure my neighbors will allow you to go in their backyards and see what's going to happen to them. Please do it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we'll close the public.
What I'd like to do is to reiterate about Rouge. My name is Dave Maven. I live at 9037 Hackberry. The creek goes right up to my house. An inch and a half of rain, I made that comment, I'm sure everybody heard it. An inch and a half of rain is all it takes for that creek to get back up on my property all the way to the landing where my steps go up, okay? Because it's never cleaned out enough. That creek, it's full of trees and nothing is ever done. There was a neighbor of mine, Roy Banks was his name. Great guy. He's the greatest guy I've ever known. This guy, he would come here to the meetings. He would do it more than I did because he was retired. But he would bring up this thing, but hardly anything was ever done. I did work once with the Rouge people to try to do something, but it was only over by where Dick, not the Bell Tire is over there. Well, we picked up some of that stuff, but it's not enough because so much of this stuff, it just, what happens is it runs down and then when the creek comes in and it clogs it up. So nothing is ever done. What is this going to do to add to that? You know what I'm saying? Can you figure that? Try to figure yourself in there, you know what I'm saying? And see how that would work for you if you lived in that area and we have this to contend with. So that's my main concern because I live right there on that creek. You know, but I understand the people that they're worried about the light pollution and the traffic. So I reiterate that too. So, but that creek is a big deal. Okay?
Okay.
So thanks.
Okay. We've been at this for about an hour, so if you
My
have
name
new
is Greg
ideas,
Walton. I live
that
at
would be the best.
9109 Hackberry.
Okay.
I back up to the creek. Back up just like you just said. When that creek comes up, the creek currently is about 15 feet wide, about 8 feet deep. Water runs about 3 inches right now. Get a little bit of a rainstorm, half an inch, it's up to the top of the banks. Get an inch and a half of rain, it's 40 feet wide, 15 feet deep, and rushing like crazy. I've been in that house for 41 years. I've seen it fill the cul-de-sac. I've seen it flood over Joy Road. The Spars property is part of the floodplain. If you pave that over, where is that water going to go? The floodplain absorbs some of it. It also redirects some of it. If it's all paved over a hard building, how does it get funneled away? Other question was, how long does the Spars building stay there? Business doesn't make it. They put another apartment complex in once it's rezoned. And third point is on the traffic. Back to what other neighbors had said. When Joy really gets backed up, people coming off Positive, or they'll come in off of Apple Creek, they can run down Hackberry and go out to Joy Road. They don't realize there's a cul-de-sac there. Somebody in their infinite wisdom took down the go outlet signs that used to be in the subdivision. Probably whether it was township, county, I don't know. People come through there 40, 45 miles an hour till they get down to the cul-de-sac, and they race back the other way, almost hitting the cars there, still trying to get out to Joy. I've gone as far as parking my vehicle across the road to direct them back out Revere, because just for the safety of the kids that live there. There's kids down there, when my family was growing up, and now. They can't tell you they saw the diaper, or they have to go, that they need to go in the house, or they need to cross, they just want to cross the street because I saw a friend. They'll just run out. And with traffic like that, you put all those extra people in there that don't realize they can't get out there. Oh, it's back up at the light. I'll just go through the subdivision and get into the apartment complex. It's not going to work.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Nancy Romali. We just last month bought a property at 42650 Revere. I didn't even totally memorize my address yet. I was extremely disappointed to find out about this proposed development, because one of the reasons we purchased the house on Revere was because it was a small neighborhood with limited access. And that's what we liked about our old neighborhood, which is also in Plymouth. We wanted to stay in Plymouth, but we needed to downsize. The traffic is bad, worse than what I had thought when we first, purchased the house. But in the goings and the comings of moving, I realized there are certain times of the day where you don't want to leave your house, or you don't want to be coming home to your house. And for me, it's not that big of an issue. I'm entitled. So I can plan my day around the heavier traffic times. But this is not true for 90% of the people. And in my younger days, we lived near an apartment complex. And it's true. It's true. People spy from the upper levels of the apartments down into your backyards. I was putting up a swing set for my son, and I had two people from the apartments behind us come and ask if they could play on the swing set with my son. I was horrified. You don't have, because I feel sorry. You live in an apartment. You don't have a yard to play in. And maybe you have kids. But you don't have a yard to play in. So whose yards are they going to go play in? And I have grandkids. I want my grandkids to be able to come to my house and play in my yard without being worried about the surroundings. Well, like I said, I was very disappointed that we were being there months ago. Realize things would be changing, and a lot of the reasons we bought that house may be different. Thank you.
Thank you. Right.
I'm Sid Hodge. I live at 8867 Manton, the street on the other side of the creek. And I don't want to take the 3 minutes to reiterate what everybody said here tonight, but I would like to ask you if you could reiterate, recap, summarize what everybody said here tonight so we know you heard us. And besides the traffic.
Thank you. All right, we will close the public hearing at 9:04. So if the applicant can come forward. So I think one of the biggest issues, you've heard everything that people have said. Of course, traffic is a major issue. But I think an equally serious issue that you need to address is this floodplain and the flooding that these people are experiencing. Have you looked into that, any of that, as you're preparing some preliminary plans?
I have just pulled up the FEMA flood maps for that area, and this property is not in any floodplain at all. Now, according to Wayne County, any new development, we have to retain our own stormwater and release it at the natural agricultural rate of the property. In other words, we cannot contribute to any flooding. It all has to be contained on the property. We couldn't even get an approval from the county, which means then the township won't give us an approval if we don't do that. That's why you see, when you saw the retention pond for the Pulte project, that's what they have to do. They have to maintain their stormwater on their property and release it at whatever the natural agricultural rate is, and that gets determined through a bunch of different calculations. But in most cases, it's probably only a 4 or 6 inch pipe is all that they get to do, and we will be in that same boat. So we'll have to contain it. We've talked about doing impervious paving. There are bioswales. There are all kinds of new things that allow us to control water and keep it on our property. And quite frankly, I don't like detention ponds. I prefer underground detention or bioswales or other means of doing it, because those things just don't get maintained very well. So yes, that's all part of this planning process, but we did look into all that, knowing we have to deal with it.
There's a concern about the commercial aspect of this project. How big of a building do you envision the commercial building to be?
Well, only right at the corner, but 5,000 or 6,000 square feet, not very big. Now, like Laura said, in order to do a PUD, it has to be either industrial or commercial. If we get approval for a PUD, it is a PUD. It's not commercial property at that point. It is a planned urban development piece of property. So what's there has to remain there. In other words, we couldn't say develop some apartment buildings and then 10 years tear them down and build commercial. Can't happen. That property has to be maintained the way it's been approved, and that's the PUD. So that's the insurance policy like we talked about. If we don't do anything, it automatically reverts back to residential. Now, I actually did studies on this property almost 20 years ago, and at that point in time, it was zoned commercial. It was subsequently rezoned to residential sometime in the past. So it actually was commercial because of the nature of the business that was there. Laura, I know exactly what Matt's just talking about because I looked at the same thing, and it's talking about the uses of property within the township, and SPARS is considered agricultural because it's a greenhouse. So that's what, I don't know where she's at. That's what Matt's referring to. I know exactly what she's talking about. So in reality, with what we want to do, we're going to have multifamily, we'll have some small commercial, and we'll have an agricultural use that's going to remain on that corner. And the 2025 master plan, which obviously hasn't been adopted yet, calls for that corner to be multi-use. So we're filling it with that need that has been developed and looked at through the township. I know people have talked about the amount of apartments, but there is a need for apartments in Southeast Michigan. It's well documented. That's why you're seeing so many developments coming up with it, because there just aren't enough. There are a lot of young couples, there are a lot of single couples that don't want to own a single family home, but they want to live in a community like ours. That's where upscale apartments come in. They don't want to buy a condo, they don't want all that responsibility even with that, but they want to have a nice place to live, and that's where these upscale apartments fit that bill.
Is there a plan on the spars? Is that going to be part of the PUD? How is that?
Yes.
It will be? So any future use other than what it's being used for right now could be prohibited in the PUD?
I understand where the question was going before. We don't plan, it's going to stay. I mean, my background is I was on a landscape company. So it made sense for us to buy the greenhouse because if I can grow my plants, it reduces the cost and we can make more. We don't plan to go, we don't plan to grow marijuana. We're just putting it out there point blank.
You wouldn't be allowed to anyway, even if you were planning on it.
Whatever, I'm just.
Not in
I
Plymouth,
wanted to guess clarify that because it got a funny look and,
Yeah.
what
That
about
is a
that?
no-go.
Yeah.
Don't worry, there's one 300 feet away from you. Yeah.
What's the address of that again?
We have a grow house in our.
Yeah, but
house in the south.
Okay, so now what about this issue about back taxes?
We bought it on land contract, and then when you purchase a property, you prepay your taxes. That's about the most I can tell you.
Oh.
Yep, we'll look into it.
All right.
We'll look into it, but we purchased the property in December. So when you purchase a property in that scenario, they prepay for the spring taxes, as a part of the purchase. So as far as I know, title company is paid for, the taxes, and anything previous to December, I don't have any information on that.
If you're on a land contract, you don't have the deed yet, right?
Pardon me?
You're on a land contract, so you don't have the deed yet? Is that correct? Okay, is the land contract vendor responsible for the taxes in the contract?
From the point of when we purchased it, we were responsible for it.
I think those have been turned over to the county.
Excuse me,
I think those.
then you owe the money, because according to the township records, over $5,000, almost $6,000, $5,900. The packet that I gave the lady over there has all the parcels of land that are there, the amounts due on each piece of property. And there's on 3 pieces of property, there are back taxes that are currently owed. You can check the township website and see. That package. And there's also additionally in back taxes, there's over $127,000.
They don't owe $127,000 in back taxes. That's not accurate.
So that's not going to
That's
show.
not accurate.
Well, we'll look into it, and we'll get down to what the true situation is.
Years ago, right?
But they were 3 years or more
Yeah.
past due, yeah.
Excuse me, we can't hear you. I know there's
We were just-
a
That's
law.
not, when you look on the township, what happens on the township website is that if somebody doesn't pay their taxes by March 1st, it gets turned over to the county, but it'll show up on the website.
It's not correct.
There's not a two-way interface between the systems.
Okay, so they don't give you a listing once a year or whatever that these taxes have.
No.
I promise you I will check the tax situation tomorrow.
Okay.
Me too.
It's just, the question I brought that up was, I'm wondering about the viability of Spar's greenhouse going forward. If this happened in the past, and there's that much money, being owed just
But
on
he just
property
purchased the
tax.
property, so we need to look at it.
Personal property taxes were up to date. Because there was a separation between personal property and real estate taxes.
So let's just.
So I'm just trying to figure out, he's knocking down more than half the greenhouses there. And he's gonna have the ones in the front with 2 or 3. The Spires couldn't make it with 10 greenhouses.
Okay, well, we're not going to get into a big discussion. We have 2 experts here that deal with taxes all the time, and they'll look into it. They have access to the official records, and they've committed to do that.
I tried getting into it last
Well,
night, but I couldn't get to it.
They may have
Online.
other
I had to go
accesses that
down
you
to
don't.
the
Yeah.
county building.
All right, thank you. We appreciate you bringing it up. traffic, of course, is a big issue, but I think most people should know that the township doesn't have anything to do with the roadways here. That's a Wayne County issue. Wayne County owns the roads, they maintain the roads, they improve the roads. So unfortunately, there isn't too much you can do except contact the county representative and see what they can do. It's not something we can do. It's not something we can do here. Laura, I have a question, or maybe I should ask them.
Pictures when we're done. Look into the taxes. That's no way. There's no fucking way.
So what, have you developed a plan enough to know what kind of buffering you would have from your property to the adjoining properties?
The initial thought was at least what the multifamily zoning would require, if not more.
Say that again?
So, because it's not zoned multifamily and we're looking at doing multifamily, I just use the multifamily zoning requirements as a guide, just as a start. But again, it's a start. So when we do a PUD, we work with the township, we work with the township planner, and we all agree upon something that's beneficial to everybody. So we may have larger setbacks, we might have things that are a little bit different than what the zoning ordinance says because we're doing a PUD. It's a collaboration between the township, the developer, the county, the planner, to pull ourselves together and come up with a plan. So, and again, we can't deviate from that once it's approved. That's what it is. We couldn't even, you know, if we had 2 buildings, we couldn't decide to build 6 because the PUD says 2. So that's the intensive planning that goes in with this. So all this does is let us have that ability to start doing that planning and seeing what we can and cannot do. Again, if we don't do anything, it stays residential. It doesn't automatically become commercial. And the intent is not to make it 100% commercial property.
Okay, all right. We've concluded the public comments, so, you know, now it's our turn to discuss this and take into account what you all have said. And basically, we want to be fair to you, we want to be fair to the developer. He is the property owner, so he has certain rights that need to be respected, just as you have property rights as well. It's a difficult balancing act, to say the least. And you saw the St. John's application here, which was developed under a PUD. So there was a plan set up a number of years ago, and you can see now they want to build townhomes. Well, they can't do that because that was not part of the PUD. So they had to come back and have that added, get permission to add that particular aspect to their development. So it is basically a contract between the township and the developer. So I'll turn it over. Do you have comments or questions? Nothing?
I don't have any questions for the developer.
Okay. Down here? Sure, okay. Yeah.
If it's between the township and the builder, if you're going to, on this PUD, and you're gonna decide, well, we're gonna build a nice berm with trees or flowers, or, like you said, the minimum, put a brick wall. Could that be the case also? And how would I know? Because I'm right next door to Win Harless's property.
It's like the next meeting, you can come in, you'll see the plan, that's how you'll know.
Yeah, the next step was drawn up earlier. I don't think we spent enough time on it, but.
Yes.
Like what you saw Pulte do.
Yes, sir.
That's what we'll do. We'll have all that information like that. Right, we're just. So.
Thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate your statement that the county, Lane County is in charge of those roads. I'm asking you as the planning commission, as you look at this and you make the recommendation, that you take it into consideration. The county may be responsible, but you have a responsibility now, based on all of us, as your taxpayers and constituents to really seriously look at that and not just say, it's the county's tax issue. I really ask that you seriously think about that and hear everything said.
Okay, I'll take a few questions. Go ahead.
I live at 920 Hackberry, and I have a huge, dip in my road. I've been doing it for 10 years. My curb is literally falling apart. The road is falling apart. In the summer, we get mosquitoes because it fills with water. And then I hear it so casually, oh, we're not responsible. It's Wayne County. Well, I still have mosquitoes, which are blood-borne insects, and nothing is done. See, that absolutely has to be part of your calculations if you go forward with it, because you are working with Wayne County road system. We don't have boardwalks, we don't have paths, side of buildings, we have nothing.
Okay,
And that, as a citizen, I am very concerned about it.
okay. All right. Do you know yet how many units you're proposing to have in your apartment section of this development?
We're still going over the details, but we want to get past this phase first. I mean, this all costs money, you know?
Yeah.
And so when we get into planning, or we don't want to be $70,000, $100,000 into something and then to know we can't even get commercial. So we're trying to get past it a step at a time, and then we'll work with the planner and the township to, make sure we satisfy the requirements and we go above, beyond that. That's our intention.
Have you gotten to the point where you know where your curb cuts will be from your property to Lily and Joy?
Roughly.
So how many curb cuts would there be on Joy or Lily?
Oh, man, I don't know.
Do you have it? I think it's, there's two here.
Well, there's currently the one for Spars, and then there's the 3 driveways.
So it'd be actually less. We'd be reducing.
Yeah,
No, we were reduced on one side, we had.
right. I mean, the initial thoughts were one on Joy Road. Not necessarily where Spars is currently, so it might move. And then probably another one, at least another one on Lily. Some of that's gonna be subject to the fire marshal. So how we gain access to the buildings and fire trucks and all that wonderful stuff. So again, that's part of us working with the township.
So does those potentially 2 curb cuts include the curb cut for Spars as well?
So there's 4 currently, and when we're done, there will be 4. So nothing
No additional?
Correct.
I have a question.
Yes.
This is not gonna be section 8 housing, or is it?
Luxury is what we're going
Luxury.
for. Yes, sir.
This is for certain, right?
Yeah, 100%.
All right, yeah.
All right.
So
And
do you
let's-
have in
oh,
mind
move
how
on.
many buildings yet? Are you saying you don't know?
No, ma'am, we're still working on that.
Yeah. This is just the rezoning. That's really what's before us. We're getting more into site plan, and he's not at that point yet. He wants to see if he can get this rezoning through, and then after that, if he does get that, after that, then there'll be another public hearing of whether or not a PUD would be approved.
So to add to that, the question before us today has nothing to do with the characteristics of the PUD. It's a request for a conditional rezoning application. And there are 6 criteria laid out in the planner's report that we're supposed to use as a matter of facts to evaluate whether this conditional zoning request, characteristics of what a building would look like they're not relevant at this particular stage in the process. If you go back to the early part of the presentation, there was I think 6 phases, and we're in the first phase, whether to approve the conditional zoning. some of these points are, they're very relevant, they're very great. What the neighbors have to say has a huge influence on, it's very influential on the outcomes. It's not always outcome determinative, but it's important. And it's also, you also have to realize that when these proposals come before the planning commission, they have every legal right to bring this proposal for us, and, we're not the enemy. This isn't our plan. We're the board who is evaluating a proposal that they have brought to us that they have every legal right to do. So some of the issues that are brought forward, I think are, they're relevant, but, they have to be considered within context. It starts with the fact that, this is currently zoned residential property, and I think it's 5 acres. And so they could knock it all down and build a couple of huge homes. And they'd have every right to do that. And they could build, on 5 acres, they could build 30 homes right now. Maybe, you gotta understand, but you gotta understand, sometimes people are accustomed to looking out their backyard and seeing woods, and they've been like that forever, but it's not their property, it's somebody else's property. So I'm trying to think of this within the context of the evaluation of this. Does it make sense under the criteria that are laid out? Because we have to be able to defend this. If we make a decision to deny the request, we would have to be able to defend it in court based on applying the facts to the criteria that is laid out before us. Things like commercial viability is not a factor. If commercial viability were a factor, I would say we have way too many coffee shops in town, because there's a coffee shop every 650 yards. But that's not our job to determine whether something's commercially viable. When they talk about building apartments, that requires this change in zoning. I think that, when I go back through the criteria, and that's what I've been doing, is I've been sitting here kind of reading back through it and thinking through it. I'm not going to support it today, because I think it doesn't create the proper transition, given the fact that there's so many residential, areas around that. But again, we got to stick back to, these criteria, and we have to be able to support it with, my denial of it with facts. So those are my comments.
My concern is, it always is that it's going against my concern is, and I bring this up probably at every meeting, is it's going against the future land use, the master plan. The 2025 master plan has not been approved yet. You all haven't had a chance to comment on it. But it is currently, the master plan says R1, and C2 is not R1, so I'm not in favor of this either.
I don't have any questions for the developer, but I would like to add that I don't think that, I respectfully disagree with the conclusion that it will establish an appropriate transitional use separating the major commercial corridors of Joy Road and Lily Road with the existing single-family residential development to the north and northwest. And I also disagree that it would be beneficial to the public good. I don't think we have enough facts that have demonstrated that this is actually would be for the public good. So for those reasons, I'm not going to support it tonight either.
Any other comments that you have?
Yeah, I'll just reiterate what Ms. Grieger and
Bob.
Mr. Bob said. My thoughts coming into this was that I didn't have enough information to be able to make a decision. My thoughts coming into the meeting were that I did not have enough information to make the kind of decision that was being asked here. I want to thank or comment that many of you did your homework You came up with some very good thoughts. Some of those I was aware of myself, some of them I wasn't, but kudos to you for doing your homework. But I won't say anything further other than just I agree with the other two commissioners.
Did you have
Yeah,
anything?
you know, I share the same concerns as my colleagues up here, and I think you all had presented some very serious issues for us to consider. The one thing, I'm new on the board, so some of this is brand new to me. And the one thing, though, that stands out to me a little bit is this process right now that we're in is so preliminary. It's almost like they're just asking for an opportunity to make their case. And that's what I'm struggling with here, even though what I've heard, if I was a resident, I would not want this development either, based on what I've heard. But as somebody who has an obligation up here to weigh the criteria, I guess while I share the concerns, I feel they should be given an opportunity to at least make their case, because all they're doing is having the opportunity to say, okay, this is what we want to do to get it to a PUD, not for commercial, but to a PUD, we have to go through this process, okay? And to let them get into that process, that's where they have to make their case. And that's where he would have to spend his money if he wants to make his case. And I would say to him that he has a big uphill battle to be persuasive. But I think he should have that opportunity. So that's where I stand on this.
Laura, you know, I like Ms. Grieger, your comment, B, on this conclusions is the transitional use between the major commercial aspects. I really don't see the transitional. What are we transitioning from? Because at least on our side, it is primarily residential.
Well, going back to, sorry, what's your name?
Jim.
Jim. What Jim was saying, we haven't got the opportunity to present anything, and it would be on us, and we would be spending our money to present the case. But I'll, I respectfully accept your decision. I'm kind of gather which direction we're going here.
So to clarify as well is that what this planning commission does will make a recommendation to the board of trustees, but it's ultimately the board of trustees that will make the decision.
Yes, and we have in the past, though, made a recommendation to the Board of Trustees in favor of some things that were not very popular, and then it does get turned down by the Board of Trustees.
It could.
They may look at it with a different lens than what we're looking at.
It might.
But Laura, how is this transitional? How do you see this as a transitional?
Well, if we zoom out and look at the entire area, kitty corner from this property is an airport. Across the street is a gas station. So having a smaller scale commercial followed by multifamily into single family is a very complementary transition that you see in communities across America. I think there was a question earlier whether or not there are instances of commercial directly abutting residential, and that is common throughout the township. There's even a couple projects later this evening that go from, directly from intensive commercial to single family, and those transitions are appropriate as well.
But those intensive commercial areas, and I'm thinking of Ann Arbor Road, there's usually a wall that separates those two different uses. I've always been particularly proud of the earlier planners when you look along Ann Arbor Road, on the other side of Sheldon, where you have the commercial, I'll take, for example, Kroger's and the CVS Plaza area. And then as you move further west, you have that heavy commercial, then you have apartments or you have condos, and then you get into the single dwelling homes. And I love that part because I think that it's providing variety of housing for people. It's a nice, downward trend toward density. And this is so butting up right up against it. And it is not primarily a intensive commercial area.
Well, the applicant isn't requesting for intensive commercial, though. They're requesting for 5,000 square feet, followed by multifamily to single family. So in the planning world, that is an orderly transition. There's certainly, this is a 5-acre site, there's definitely space for that.
It would seem to me that a transitional use going from single family would be to go to a duplex or a townhome owned by the resident. Just goes straight from single family to multifamily in this particular site seems to me to be a very abrupt transition.
I think when we conceptualize multiple family, we typically think of the older style multifamily that has been built in the township, which, you know, is 20, 30, maybe 40 years old, garden style, 2 or 3 floors. The applicant has expressed that they are interested in presenting a planned unit development that is more mixed use, that would feature smaller buildings, so that it would be more in scale with the neighborhood. However, we haven't been able to explore that yet because we can't do that until a rezoning is in place. The applicant is really asking for the least intrusive underlying zoning for the PUD. They would have asked for C1, the local commercial, but that isn't allowable as an underlying district in the PUD. It's only the C2 or the industrial. Multiple family isn't even allowed to be as the underlying zoning in the PUD. So what they've requested is really the least intensive land use in order to make that proposal to the township.
Did they ask for R2 or?
It's not permitted as a PUD.
But not as a PUD?
Well, then the greenhouse is still in nonconformity and they wouldn't be able to adjust that. And then that removes the mix of the small scale commercial at the corner, which is small scale commercial at the corners of neighborhoods is, you know, a time and tested cornerstone in many American towns.
Say that 3 times real fast.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah. So the planning department fully supports the proposal in order to see a mixed-use development on this corner.
Well, whatever the commission direction they want to go, I mean, we do have, we have to do findings of fact. Laura has laid some of that out in her report, and if we want to recommend denial to the Board of Trustees, then someone would have to come up with the findings of fact of why we would do that.
Another comment allowed?
Very quick.
Yeah, Mike, go ahead. Mike, go ahead and make your comment.
My comment is to that gentleman there. I'm not sure your name because I don't have my glasses. I'm sorry.
It depends. Is your comment nice or mean?
My comment is to you. Your responsibility is to the community, not to builders and developers. To the community.
Whoever said it
Okay.
Listen.
All right.
Whoever said otherwise.
All right,
Whoever said
that was a quick comment, please.
Whoever said otherwise.
All right. That was
Who
your
said
quick
otherwise?
comment. That was a quick comment. I'm not going to allow any more comments if it ends up like this. I'm trying to make a friendly banter between you and us and the builder, all the people, all the stakeholders in this. And those kind of comments do nothing toward a resolution to a very difficult decision.
That we take very seriously.
We do.
My problem is
No, we're not going to talk anymore, please, sir. This is our time. We've spent over an hour listening to everyone here. We appreciate you all coming and listening to those, but now this is our time. So there we are. What's your pleasure?
Somebody has to make a motion.
One way or the other, and see
You want
what
to do it?
flies, and include findings of fact in whatever that motion would be. I mean, the question is, do we recommend? We are not ultimately the deciders of this. That rests with the Board of Trustees.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
So do we feel we should just send it to them and say, have them look at this? And it is the professional opinion of the planners.
Yeah.
Or, you know, kick it upstairs, as you would say, or
Okay with
just
that.
deny it, and they could still approve it.
Either way, I mean, either way, it's ultimately gonna be on the BOT,
Right.
so.
Okay. Okay, well, I move that we recommend denial of PC application number 2474, the Spars Greenhouse conditional rezoning for R1 to C1 to the Board of Trustees because it is not consistent with the 2015 master plan. I would also like to note that the 2025 master plan has not yet been approved. I would also like to note that when the 2025 master plan is discussed, that it include the northeast and northwest corner of Joy and Lily Road, and hope to have input from everyone here.
I'll support.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Barberina and supported by Commissioner Grieger. And we should take a roll call vote if you can call everyone's name.
Do I go in order or?
Yeah.
So we're gonna take a roll call vote. Commissioner Boyd,
I support the motion.
Commissioner Greer, support. Chairman Sobuski,
Support.
Vice Chairperson Barberina,
Support.
Commissioner Dorchevitz.
What do we,
Denial.
Denial.
If you support, if you.
yeah, yes, denial,
Okay.
support denial.
Okay.
Wasn't sure how you were phrasing that.
And Commissioner Berry.
Well, again, while I do have major concerns that have been presented here tonight, I do believe that the Planning Commission has made out the qualifications to take it to the next step, to at least give him the opportunity to present. And so for that reason, I would approve.
So you're
Support for
voting no on the motion?
Supporting, yeah, no on the motion, yes.
No on the
Oh, so you
motion,
know on the motion.
No on the
Okay.
motion, yeah.
yeah.
So that's
It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5-1.
5-1. So the motion carries, so it's denied. But that's a recommendation to the Board of Trustees. Now it goes to them. And so that's a recommendation to the Board of Trustees, so that goes to them. And they could reverse it.
So what's the next step?
It goes to the Board of Trustees. They'll have a public hearing on it. You can be at the meeting and you can, as you did here, you can raise your concerns. Yes.
No, there's not a
There's-
public hearing.
No, there is no public hearing, but they always have public
They
comments.
always have, yeah.
Yeah, it isn't a formal public hearing like it was here, but they do have public comment, like we did at the beginning for non-agenda items. So you could still go to that meeting and make a public comment.
Where would it be located?
In this same room, right here.
And when?
The best thing I would say is to look at the township website. The agendas are posted usually on a Thursday or a Friday, aren't they, Bob?
Yeah.
Thursday.
Yeah, they come out on Thursday morning, and they're posted usually by midday on Thursday, but it won't be in for, I'd say probably, there's 2 meetings in May. It's one meeting in May. It may, I don't know, will it get on that agenda? Hard to say. Yeah, I would say probably, maybe not, I don't know. That was real,
That's helpful.
real helpful. It'll probably be in June.
It's a long process, so that's where it stands.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah. Thank you all for coming. Maybe.
Thank you.
Everybody's going to check my name, I'm the bad guy.
I was just like. All right, let's move on, Dennis, man, it's going on 10 o'clock.
So you know Roy Banks?
Roy Banks?
Yeah.
Hey, can you guys, excuse
Yeah, I served
me,
on the Board of Review.
can
with
you
him
help,
for
there's
a
only
year.
one maintenance
I served
guy,
on the
if
Board
you
of
could give
Review.
me a big in the other room, fill up the other room. Thank you. I'll through the hallway
Marty will help.
Yeah, thank you.
So what happens? This is all on TV, right? So they start.
It's on.
Thanks for coming.
It'll be on YouTube streaming.
It's not an easy job. Thank you.
That's when they start with their sniping and.
Oh yeah, that's when they start their sniping. But I have to say what I have to say because it's really frustrating because they assume that we're the enemy. You know, that this is our proposal.
I think that was the comment.
Joe?
It was actually directed at me, not at you.
Oh, was it?
It doesn't matter to me because I've already sold the place. But I listen to this stuff all the time.
I know
if I
you
get
do.
up to say something, you know, I get thrown back in my face. But the Plymouth Christian School, they got all the traffic, okay? These guys aren't to blame for the traffic. I'm on Joy Road. The school, traffic backs up all the way to my place. Maybe we should close the high school, right? And also, these guys are to blame for when it rains and it floods, okay? So, you know.
All right, we're gonna move on now to our next application.
Yeah, we got a.
Yeah, we still have 5 more
I looked at that
items.
master plan for years, and I know that that area was supposed to be assembled, and exactly what she says is.
I know.
No, I'd rather keep going.
We gotta keep going.
All right, can we go? Do you want to go? Do you want to
go quick?
I don't. Okay.
We can alternate.
We'll
okay?
alternate.
You go first and then I'll cover for you.
Thanks, guys.
My wife always wonders when we have these congressional hearings, how do they can talk so loud
Okay.
and not have to go to the bathroom?
We still have 4 more items.
Okay, there we go. Tim Hortons.
Yep.
Yeah, there's one letter in front.
All right.
No, it's actually in Bigby, I think, isn't it?
Well, Tim Hortons is
Special land use, this is a drive-through. That's Tim Hortons. isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's Tim Hortons.
Laura, we're ready with Tim
No,
whenever you
actually
are.
it isn't. Let's go to start right.
Oh, so this is Bigby?
No, it's Hortons.
Tim Hortons.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, mistake.
Let's just send it to the Board of Trustees and let them do it. But I don't think it's. When you
It was our job though to decide this property. And they can still decide.
And they don't know enough about planning. I hate to say it, but they don't. I've watched those meetings. All right.
All right, are you ready for, we still have 4 more items tonight.
Laura, whenever you're ready.
All right, thank you. The next item on the agenda is the proposed special land use for Tim Hortons at 39601 Ann Arbor Road. The applicant is proposing to reoccupy the vacant tenant space here, Frank's Quick Lube and Service, which is at the east end of the existing building, and convert the approximately 1,200 square feet into a drive-through Tim Hortons. So this would be no expansion to the existing footprint of the building, but just the conversion of those 2 auto bay service areas into a drive-through. There would be 8 indoor seats, but it would primarily function as a drive-through with 2 employees. And as a drive-through, the use in the ARC district, the Ann Arbor Road Corridor District, is a special land use, which is why it's on the agenda this evening as both the special land use and the site plan review. Our recommendation is on page 2 of our memo, and we do find that the site can accommodate the drive-through, the special land use. Given the current configuration, there is sufficient space for stacking, and given the smaller scale of the drive-through versus the other auto use that was previously there, with vehicles coming and going and exiting out of the building. However, there's a couple conditions that we note on page 2 of our review. that we would expect to see compliance with should the special land use be granted. That would include compliance with the approved 2005 site plan. That's on the table over there. If the commission would like to take a more detailed look at that site plan, we do call out the land, a snip of the landscape plan in our site plan review letter from the 2005 plan, but the full plan roll is on the table if you'd like to peruse through that. There's just a number of items that would need to be complied with that site plan, such as the dumpster enclosure, some of the missing landscaping. And there's a couple vehicles that are parked on the lot that would need to be removed from the rear of the property. So that's condition number 1 that would need to be addressed. The second condition is adding some signage prohibiting eating in the parked vehicle. There isn't space for that on site. After receiving the food from the drive-through, vehicles would need to queue off the site. And then a note be added. This is the third condition regarding the speaker system, which would be located in that southeast portion of the building, excuse me. Additional information would need to be provided regarding the amplification of that noise so that it wouldn't be audible from the adjacent residences. And as a special land use, of course, a public hearing is required this evening, and we did receive that one email communication on March 29th regarding this development. But that is the only email correspondence we've received. Thank you.
Okay, and the applicant is here. Okay.
How you guys doing? Good evening. Good afternoon. Good evening. Everybody left, so heck, they're gone. So we're good to talk. My name is Robert Daoud. I'm the owner operator with my mother. She's recording me right now. It's the first time, so she's excited. Here's my brother Randy. We did a little rock paper scissors before we got here. We said, who's gonna talk? Is it gonna be me or you? I obviously lost, so I gotta talk now. So I will introduce myself though. My name is Randy Daoud. I am also a member of the Downtown Development Authority and Brownsfield Redevelopment Authority as well. So if you guys ever come to any of those meetings, I'll be with Kurt Heisey, and you guys can come see me and say hi. Yeah, so my architect couldn't make it tonight. He's in Columbus. He called me on Monday and he said, I don't think I'm gonna be able to make it. You could tell from his voice, he lost his voice completely. I don't know, I didn't even ask. I just said, all right, sounds good. He's like, I trust you. You go in there and do your thing, and answer any questions that they need. And I'm here to answer any questions that you guys need, and so we can move forward with this.
Do you have any questions?
Would you like me to read this into the record?
Yeah, well, when we're going to open the public hearing.
Yes, I have some questions. You all are the owner of the facility, okay? Looked to me like in the garage, like there were a couple lifts with a pit below.
Yes.
Are you planning to remove those pits? And
Yes.
Okay.
So everything's getting renovated, removed. We're just waiting for tentative site plans, site plans approval, special use permits and stuff for us to move forward and empty the whole space out and get ready to, hopefully build this Tim Hortons.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
My other question is the landscaping issues that are addressed in the planner's report. Do you all plan to?
Yes, 100%. That's as soon as we're done building, the first thing we're gonna do is landscape and make sure everything is up to date and everything looks well. And I know you guys said about that barrier between the speaker and the neighborhoods behind us. We are in the process of purchasing the house directly behind the business, and we plan on building some either expanding the wall a little bit higher or possibly landscape with some trees, so that wouldn't be an issue with the neighbors behind us with the drive-through.
The house right here on Tavistock?
Yes, the house directly right behind the gas station.
Right here?
Yep, 9449.
Okay.
Okay.
Would it remain a single-family home?
Yes. Yep. Actually, that's gonna be my mom's house.
Okay.
So, so my mom, my brother's planning to get married very soon, and she did this whole thing. I want to live close to the gas station. I want to live close to the Tim Hortons. I want to live close to you guys. I want to
That's
see
close.
you guys. You know, and she still wants to be part of the business.
She would rather have us walk over than drive, so she can make us food.
So that's, you know, babysit my kids,
It's gonna
but
keep you in line.
Yes,
I
that's
hope
right.
not. I mean, you know, we'll see what happens, but,
I did want to say something as far as for the vehicles that were in the back of the gas station, for what Laura had mentioned. So I don't know if some of you may know, but those vehicles, were my father's vehicles. And my father passed away 8 years ago, and we took over the business, and we've continued his legacy. But those cars are very sentimental to us. I can't just let them go. So I am in the process right now. I had just purchased a storage unit to store the cars. They will be out in less than a couple of weeks.
Okay.
yeah, so they'll be gone. There's just a little comment I want to throw out there. It's funny to be up here, especially with them. In 2004, before this was here, we were at the planning commission on Ann Arbor Road and Lilly. Yeah, Ann Arbor Road and Lilly, and I just remember sitting like a civilian and just seeing my dad, you know, give this speech, and it was just like, you know, one day my kids will be up here and my kids will, you know, they'll expand our business and they'll do this and they'll do that. My dad was very aggressive, you know, he's an aggressive guy. We're not like that, you know, so we're very cool. But he just said, you know, very, very soon you'll see my kids. I was 8 years old, he was 9 years old. And then driving here, I was just thinking, I said, wow, I'm going to a planning commission meeting? Like, is this really happening? Like,
We were at that meeting.
I do
were
recall,
still on
I
the
do
commission.
recall that meeting. And I think- Well, I still picture you when you were about that. And I did tell your dad that you were very well behaved. So that memory has stuck.
Yeah, it was really funny, you know, and it's really nice to be up here and, you know, and it feels great to, you know, still stay in Plymouth Township. One of the first things my mom said, if I'm talking too much, you guys can cut me off anytime. But one of the first things my mom said after our father passed away was, what do you guys want to do? And me and him just, you know, without hesitation, we gotta keep going. And that was the most important thing. Obviously, we're not master mechanics like him. You know, Frank's Quick Lube and Service is that was his baby. You know, his toolbox is still there, everything's still there. That's what built that. So that built that, and you know, here we are now. We want to expand out, and we were fortunate enough to, you know, we got approached by Tim Hortons after, you know, we applied to them, and they finally came and they said, hey, you know, are you guys interested in being franchisees? And we said, absolutely, you know. So we're excited to work with them. We signed 5 locations. Hopefully, you know, we can get some more locations in Plymouth Township. And that's for the future, but right now we're just focusing on this one. He's gonna be the general manager there, and I'm forced to talk, so you know, made me talk. I lost the rock, paper, scissors match, so.
Can go a little bit off topic. Can you double check tomorrow to make sure your taxes and water bills are current?
Yes.
Seriously,
Yeah.
Taxes and
water bill.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, she handles it. Are we good?
Water bills? Not sure. Call my office tomorrow.
We should have
That's
the
her job,
receipts.
so
Yeah.
I'll ask her.
We'll make sure to be on top of
Unrelated
it.
planning question, are you related to Tarek Daoud?
No.
No.
Okay, we're going to open up the public hearing at 9:57. And we did receive one letter. So who's it from?
This letter is from Ben Lorenz.
Is Ben here? Okay, maybe you can summarize. Oh, it's a short
It's a
letter.
short one.
Okay.
I write as I live at 9335 Caprice Drive, which is a mere 2 lots away from the proposed drive-through location. The plan shows that the current and proposed facilities are directly adjacent to R1 zoned property, which is 9449 Tavistock Drive. Allowing a drive-through to pass along the property line would be a massive annoyance to us, both in terms of noise and air quality. Imagine cars continuously idling and running beside your own home. As a reference, the Dunkin' Donuts across the street does not run between the building and adjacent housing, but rather in front of the structure. We completely oppose this project proposal and kindly request that you reject this drive-through behind the building and next to our homes.
Is there anyone here that wishes to speak to this proposal? Oh, okay.
Hi, my name is Alex Parent, and I'm 42520 Apple Creek. So, out with all these folks. I sell beer and wine to this fine family. And after tonight, I might need one or two. I digress. But fantastic family. I'm so proud of what they've done in the short time, the 4 or 5 years I've worked with them. And I'm incredibly excited to see what these guys continue to do and bring some improvements to the property in our township. So, congratulations, guys, and good luck. I support.
Anyone else that wishes to speak? Okay, hearing none, we'll close the public hearing at 9:59. Are there questions from the commission?
I have a question for Laura. Back when this was first approved with Frank's Lube and Blimpie's was in there in the gas station, the fire department report said that that back lane, like where the cars are parked, was the fire lane. Like they needed that if there was a fire at the adjacent house or in the building. And I remember that being an issue of contention with the cars being parked back there and blocking the fire lane. But I didn't see anything about that in the fire department report. Did something change, or is it no longer an issue for the fire department?
Our department did speak with the fire department about access to the site and around, and they are completely comfortable with using that back portion as the queuing line for the drive-through. They don't need it to get around the building due to the other access that they have and their capabilities today.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I propose we approve I'm sorry, I gotta find the right number here, application number 2475, the special land use drive-through proposal, subject to the commissioners, to the planner's recommendations.
Okay, is there support?
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Boyd and supported by Commissioner Berry to approve application 2476. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations.
Commissioner?
You're still
I
site
thought there were
plan.
actually two.
There are two. There's
You
two.
still have the
You
tentative
still have
site
the
plan
tentative
approval.
site plan.
You're not done yet.
So what we just approved was the special land use, which is 2475.
Right,
Okay.
that's what you said.
Yeah,
You
I
did
said
say
so,
that.
okay. So now we're gonna do 2476, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Right. Okay, Laura, you have your report?
Yes, okay, so this is application 2476. This is the site plan for the special land use, which goes into greater detail about the site requirements. Since this is an existing building that was, semi-recently approved and the building footprint isn't changing, all of those dimensional standards remain in compliance. And there's already many of the required elements such as parking, the sidewalks, some of the landscaping, the lighting. We do note a couple conditions of approval, though, regarding the site plan. Several of the landscaping items are specifically called out on page 5 of the report that detail what's either has died regarding the landscaping since 2005, and what needs to be reinstalled, or maybe just was missing to begin with. It's unclear. But those items are detailed, as well as the dumpster enclosure being in compliance and replacing the gates on the enclosure. We also note that the elevations and the floor plans for the final copy must be signed and sealed by a licensed architect. And there is a light band that we request the applicant provide some additional information on the color and shielding for. But if the commission is satisfied with those three items that we list on page 8 of our report, given the fact that engineering is okay with this, it just requires DPW review, and that the fire department is comfortable with it. We are comfortable to recommend tentative and final this evening if the commission is so obliged. We recommended tentative in the review letter, but the applicant has stated that they're aware of the landscaping items, which was one of the biggest concerns for us, and that they're ready to make those improvements. So if the commission is ready, we can recommend tentative and final, just contingent that these three items would be addressed administratively.
What were the three items? Because I couldn't hear what.
Oh, the recommendation.
Oh, under recommendation? Yeah.
So it's the same items for tentative and final, the same three items?
Yes.
Nothing added if we did final?
Yes.
Elevations and floor plan, these three up here, right? You're referring to this page, right?
On page
Correct.
8?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You could grant tentative and final.
Okay. So the applicant is here, obviously. You're familiar with the three, and so you will do that? So the question I have on the landscaping, is that irrigated? Are those planting beds irrigated? Are those planting beds irrigated? You know, some of the material has died.
Yeah.
So do you water in all the planting beds?
Yes.
Okay. And wanted to talk a little bit about, and you're going to provide information administratively for the color and shielding for the light board?
Yes.
And what color is this, this maple leaf with Tim's across it?
The ethos is a light gray.
Yeah, not the ethos, but the little maple leaf. I think it's the logo for Tim's.
Oh, that's red. That's a LED light that we're gonna come back for the signage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's through our sign company.
Okay.
That's a new design that they wanna bring up. That Tim's is gonna be lit up. But that they just threw that out there just as a design. So until we get that approved through you guys, that's not something we're doing right now.
So is the Tim's text, is that white, do you know?
Yeah, it's white, and that maple leaf is red.
Yeah.
And that's their new design that they're innovative and something
Yeah,
new.
I've never seen it, plus it's a Canadian
It's
company.
very different, very unique.
So Laura, would your recommendation then be minus the signage that's on the plan?
There's no signage that's being approved as part of this. They'd have to come back for signage approval at a future date once it's finalized.
Okay.
And there's no monument sign that will say, is there a monument sign that will say something about Tim Hortons?
So what we're planning to do is our gas sign, it's just gonna have a little Tim Hortons at the bottom. So nothing crazy, no monument. And then whatever we want to do on the building, we'll come back with you guys and discuss that with our sign company to get it approved.
Other questions from the commission? Okay. Agenda. I threw the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I
Yes.
recommend we provide tentative and final site plan approval for project number 2476, Tim Hortons at 39621 Ann Arbor Road, subject to the meeting the three conditions by the planning department as noted on page 8 of the report.
There's support?
Could we also add that no approval for signage? That they'll come back for that?
Yes, okay, yeah, we accept the percentage of 70% masonry facade.
Okay.
And no approval for signage at this time.
And no approval for signage at this time. Good add.
That's what she added.
And is there support?
I'll support.
Okay. Moved by Commissioner Boyd and supported by Commissioner Grieger to grant tentative and site plan approval subject to set conditions to application 2476.
Laura, we did say tentative and final site plan, right? Okay.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Good luck. Thanks for your investment. Good luck.
Congratulations, family. Good luck to you.
Thank you. I'm taking my drink.
Okay.
You can go when I come back.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Good luck. Right.
Gentleman I asked him about it, this is the nicest guy. He was the owner of, what was it, El Cerro Ford, or whatever, over on the east side, right?
Going to keep this going. So we have application 2477, the Hayward Ridge Business Park. The applicant's here. Okay, good. Laura?
Thank you. As you recall, at the March Planning Commission meeting, the commission reviewed and approved the special land use for the outdoor storage at 15,000, Ridge Road, which is the Halyard Road Business Park. And this would be approximately 7 acres of outdoor storage, not fenced in, but completely bermed, located behind the previously approved building that will front along Ridge Road. So the majority of this site, or the outdoor storage, will be screened by the building, but the applicant is providing a berm with some additional landscaping on top to screen it. Since there's no building or fence proposed for the use, there's just a couple use standards that apply from the zoning ordinance, which the applicant has met regarding setbacks and dimensional requirements. So as such, in our review on page 2, we recommend tentative and final site plan approval for the proposed outdoor storage area. There are some additional engineering standards that still need to be worked through, but Spalding has recommended tentative and final site plan contingent upon those being addressed, mostly to do with the stormwater and some of the outstanding permits, which, given the size of the site, can definitely be accommodated on that plan.
Okay. And not sure if there was an engineering report. I don't think there was. There was?
Yeah.
Do you have any? Okay. I got stuff.
It's everywhere. It's like,
Can you summarize something on the engineering report since the engineer isn't here?
oh, me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes. I'm sorry, I thought I just did.
So did I.
Spalding is recommending tentative and final site plan. There's just some matters that have to do with the stormwater. The basin that was originally proposed for the building is going to have to be slightly expanded to accommodate this area and the impervious surface with the driveways. But they all feel that the site can accommodate the enlarged detention basin. This is only really the second phase of the development. It's anticipated that there will be future phases, and there would, need to be even more improvements to the stormwater system on the site. and the site can be served by utilities. Given that this is just the outdoor storage, that's not anticipated to impact it that much.
Okay, well, thank you. And if I had the authority, I would approve the engineering consulting fee to you tonight. And no deficiencies from the fire department from a public safety perspective. Okay, the floor is yours.
Perfect. I don't want to bore you guys too much with details. Like Laura said, we were here last month, kind of ran through it. We kept the same layout, same design. We just finessed it a little bit based on what came up from last month's presentation. Again, the major comments, I guess you could say, are regarding engineering. As we get tentative and final site plan approval, we'll work with Spalding Decker with engineering to make sure that our plans are checking all the boxes required for that, primarily regarding the stormwater management system. So at this point, we've been working with Laura and Adam from Spalding Decker, just making sure that, we're heading down the right path. And then as we start finessing everything, finalizing it with the proposed tenant, we'll make sure that, we're obviously within compliance with their requirements per the letter.
I just have two questions, primarily for Laura. So at the last time these folks were here, we talked about the outdoor storage. And there wasn't going to be a fence because of the berm, but they may change their mind depending on how that situation plays out. If they decide that they do need a fence, does that come back to us?
I think if they decided that they needed a fence for security purposes and it was 6 feet or so, then it would just be administrative site plan. It wouldn't come back to the full planning commission. However, they are proposing a number of deciduous and evergreen trees all along the berm. So I think that, especially as those trees mature, you wouldn't see it, but also I think it's achieving the same security that a fence would provide, in that no one's going to drive their vehicle into the area and try to, fill a truck up with something and drive it out, right? Those trees are going to act as a natural kind of perimeter.
And then the other question, I'm not objecting to this, but they've been moving dirt around a lot. It's been kind of interesting to watch them do that.
Oh, yeah.
So those machines are pretty big.
Yeah, they have some big equipment out there for sure.
So do they get a permit to do that before they get their final approval? What is that process?
So the grading that they're doing on site right now is actually for the original building that we went through this process for last year. So we're not expanding our limits of disturbance at this point for this storage lot. Everything you're seeing is just for the original 286,000 square foot warehouse.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So this area would be 7 acres behind that. So again, to get to Laura's point, as far as, screening or berms or whatever, not only are we building the berm requirement per your guys' requirements, we're also behind the building, and then we have a pretty significant grade change from where Ridge Road is to where the front of our building is to where the top of our storage lot is. So even if you're driving along Ridge Road, first off, you probably wouldn't even see the storage lot, and even if you did go down the access drive into the business park, there's another elevation gain there that would prohibit people to even see what's going on back there. So,
yeah, there is quite a bit of elevation changes there. I can see it with, of course, I'm sure they're still moving things around, but it seems like it's getting a little higher in some spots.
Yeah, once the building pad goes in, we'll have it nice and flat, and then we'll start moving along.
Okay. Other questions?
I have one. On page 2.1 of the site plan.
Yes.
This is the south border. This shows this road now extending all the way along the south side of the storage lot with a driveway into the storage lot at the southeast corner.
Correct.
Are you planning to go ahead and build that part of the road?
We are, yes. So that is part of this now. That was one of the requests that came up indirectly from our last meeting, was just ensuring that we have enough access to that southern corner of the property there. So what we're proposing with the developer is to extend that road, because that road will dual purpose eventually. Once we go to phase 2 or phase 3, start putting additional building pads, that will service as the access drive to those building pads. But for now, this is providing the access for the rear corner of our site.
I think that's an excellent addition.
Yeah.
So good job.
Thanks.
Any other comments, concerns? Okay, are we ready for a motion? Tentative and final. Outdoor storage lot.
Sure, I'll do it,
Okay.
if I can find it. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I move to approve application number 2477, outdoor storage lot. The site plan, tentative and final site plan review.
Support.
Support?
Moved by Commissioner Dorchevitz, and I'll say supported by Commissioner Barry, to grant tentative and final site plan approval to 2477. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations.
Appreciate it. Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Thank you.
Y'all have a good night.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah, thanks for sticking it out.
Okay.
So the coffee comes at the end of the night.
If anyone ever comes to us and wants
We
to
done
do
it?
indoor or
There's
outdoor,
one more.
What's
say
wrong?
no.
Big B. I know.
Application 2465, the Big B Coffee, which we probably need at this time.
Yeah,
Guess not the Tim Hortons coffee will go to Big B.
The guy with the liquor distributor.
Oh, yeah, the liquor distributor guy.
And more.
Okay, so Laura, do you have your report?
Yes, thank you. So you'll recall at the March Planning Commission meeting, the special land use for the Big B drive-through was granted, and then tentative site plan approval was also granted. There were some minor items to clean up before coming back for final, which the applicant has addressed. So some of that was providing some additional information, such as there will be 5 employees on the peak shift, although 3 are more likely within the space. They've provided the additional information on the building materials and provided a render. And I think the applicant has some building materials to pass out. I did. It should be in the packet.
It is.
But if you'd like to pass out a larger copy, you're welcome to.
Yeah, because I don't see it.
The lighting, or it should be on the online version. Bob, if you wanted to pull that up.
On the project?
Oh.
Was that?
Okay, then maybe it's not up there.
Was in our packet.
Thank you.
But in addition to the facade, the applicant also revised some of the landscaping, and there were a couple points where the illumination levels with the lighting were too bright, so those have been reduced
Thank you. Thank you very much.
and are now in compliance.
It looks nice.
And there were a couple adjustments with the landscaping and the fencing to allow for greater areas for some landscaping and screening, which improves the site overall. And then there is a revised engineering letter within your packet that recommends tentative and final site plan.
Is this the signage that's proposed? Okay, just checking.
Signage would be submitted under separate cover.
Nice.
It was an artistic interpretation from the person who did the rendering.
Okay,
Exactly.
just checking.
Nice.
But the proposed brick that is to be used that matches the wine-dot pattern that's along the DDA.
This is for the brick wall and the back along the property line. This is the Glengarry people went into their.
So that's the brick that is in this picture? Is that sort of the wainscot?
No, the wine-dot brick pattern is.
That's what we're
for your wall.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay?
For the
This is
streetscape.
The city standard for
Right.
wall or whatever it's called. We're not matching the wine-dot brick with our.
Oh, the border wall, yeah.
Our brick color is gunstock brown and coffee.
That's appropriate.
Ironically.
But speaking of the streetscape, and, you know, I mentioned this when you were here before, the pillars still show sort of like a cinder block or something in the middle, and it's supposed to be brick to match all of the other pillars that are along the Ann Arbor Road
Gonna
corridor.
be the brick.
All the way around, not, there's, okay.
Yeah, with you guys have a required wire,
Wrought iron.
wrought iron.
Yeah, right.
So we're gonna match that, and we gotta put the concrete top on, so the brick doesn't wear out.
Okay, and brick all the way around, not,
All that stuff
okay, all right,
is gonna be matched.
okay. I find this to be an attractive building that this wasn't in our packet, but I wondered when I looked at the rendering, what were these long things here? And I can see what you know, at the top of this.
Oh.
Yeah, so this puts it in perspective. Anyone have comments, concerns, questions?
Or just, this strikes me as a really appealing design.
Yes.
As a what?
A really appealing design
Yeah.
architecturally.
It is.
Well done.
Yeah, it is. Well, like I
And
said.
this is Brian Winkleman. He's the architect that designed it. I'd like to
Oh,
introduce
Good
him.
job, Brian.
Very good job.
Because I did tell the owners I wasn't too happy what the neighboring community did with one of their coffee shops there. So this looks much better.
Thanks.
Moreover, this sets the standard for law in many other locations.
Yeah, it's very nice.
I have a question for Laura. Were you able to find out anything about closing the Marlowe Avenue and like the streets in Green Meadows being closed along the Ann Arbor Road corridor?
Yes, and I do have this plat map to pass around if you guys would like to see that these were all originally dedicated, and while some may have been closed in the past, the remainder are still dedicated and are to remain open with Wayne County.
Okay, so with the Ann Arbor Road, the ARC zoning ordinance, where it had said that certain roads were going to be closed over time as development happened, is this one that was meant to be open, to remain open?
I don't know if it's meant to be open in that plan or not, but they should remain open. I wouldn't recommend closing any of them.
I guess just because that plan that was approved said that as development would happen on Ann Arbor Road, we would close off. Like that was a promise that the commission had made to the residents of Green Meadows because they were concerned about cut-through traffic. And then as like where the Honda dealer went in and the townhouses, as some of the roads got closed off, then that would make more traffic go through the remaining roads. So our promise to them at that time was that as development happened, all of the roads, I thought, would be closed, and that property would then be given or somehow given to the developers that faced Ann Arbor Road.
In some scenarios, I think you can probably imagine how that happened if, let's say, Bank of Ann Arbor had purchased the small lot that they did purchase, and then they purchased this as well, and let's say that the DTE substation wasn't there and they were able to purchase that lot, then they could potentially look at vacating the road from Wayne County and purchasing the road from Wayne County, but just to have the developer vacate a portion of the road is not feasible or something that we would recommend.
So if they had both sides, like back when Bank of Ann Arbor went and they were not able to get the adjacent property. I think they wanted to, but they couldn't. But so just so I understand and our due diligence for what we had promised residents, I guess, in the past, is if they had owned both sides of the road, then they could close it off?
Potentially, if Wayne County allowed it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see Wayne County allowing that today, though.
Okay. And I think even back then, those might have all been soil-based roads before they even paved
it.
What do you think?
I
Do you remember, Dennis?
think they might have been soil-based at that point.
I think so too.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
And I think Well, weren't the two commissioners that lived in that subdivision on the commission at that time?
Yeah, Janice Litwin and Jim Corral were
yeah.
both here separate
Commissioners.
times.
So they, I think they were one of the advocates for that approach. Plus, I think the townhouses was envisioned to be bigger than what it was, but, you know, you had that Edison substation, where it is today, still there, and then there was that doctor's office, and he wouldn't sell. So that put
The
a
doctor's
kibosh.
office or the,
Yeah, there was a
the
doctor's
insurance
office.
company, I thought.
Well, that was for the bank.
Right, that was for the
That was
bank.
for the bank, but that doctor's office
Mhm.
wouldn't sell. So that kind of altered that townhouse. And then they had some financial problems. Remember, they put I think they put the basement in and
Right,
the
it sat for a
foundation, and
long
it
time.
sat for a long time.
Mhm, years.
And then somebody came in and said they would finish
Finish
it
it
up. When they built that strip mall that's in
Mhm.
front.
Thanks for looking into that.
I have one additional question on building material. So what is the material that looks like wood at the top? Is that a drive-it?
I apologize, I forgot the sample at home.
Is that
But it is a steel siding.
It's a steel siding that looks like wood. It's an embossed steel siding that has wood grain and it's printed with some wood grain. So it looks like wood that it'll last 20 years.
So it's not going to rust right away or?
Rust, and it's also not going to turn spotty gray like wood does.
So that 1926 plat date.
That color is called walnut.
Yes, okay. Any other questions? All right, are we ready for a motion? This is final site plan.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend we grant final site plan approval for project number 2465, Big B Coffee at 1311 Ann Arbor Road.
Okay, is there support?
I support.
Moved by Commissioner Boyd and supported by Commissioner Grieger to grant final site plan approval to 2465. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Well, congratulations. Thanks for your investment.
Thank
Wish
you.
you well. And we have our planning report. Were there any questions about the planner's report? Nothing. Any commissioner comments?
I have a couple. In view of the timing tonight, I'm not going to get into these discussions in detail. Bob, I hope, in particular for those of you that are still full-time workers. But just want to note that I've been getting, yeah, I know, my memory's not so good anymore.
For those of us that have jobs.
Yes, yes. Anyway, as we know, Plymouth Township cannot impact roads. In dealing with Wayne County, the experiences we heard tonight are very similar with my own experiences. I'm getting feedback from the people that I interact with that from the perspective of Plymouth Township residents, the fact that we cannot control the roads is, they don't understand why we are not looking at the road situation when we evaluate projects, for instance, the racetrack or tonight. So they say, okay, well, you don't have control. Well, you need to factor that into your decision. I know that's not the position that the Planning Commission has typically taken, but that's what I'm hearing from our residents. The other point, again, came up tonight. It really concerns me that we don't, as a township, take the initiative to notify people that are greater than 300 feet away from some of these major projects. Not only for their own, just to inform them, but also to make sure that they get the full story of what it is we're actually doing. Because in some cases, if you look at Nextdoor or some of the social media sites, it's being misrepresented, either willfully or unwillfully, what it is we're actually doing. So I just wish there was a way in the future we could make a decision to, on major projects, somehow get the word out beyond just the legally required 300 feet. So those are my only comments tonight. I'd like to talk about those in more detail at some point in the future.
I'd like just to add something to that, and because of the lateness of the hour too, I'm not going to get into it. But Laura, can you just, in a couple of sentences, tell the commission about the study that was done by the U of M students?
So there were two capstone projects that U of M students worked on in Plymouth Township. One group of students focused this last semester, the past couple months, on an aging in place plan and what that means for housing in the township. And the second group of students at U of M worked on a public participation plan and ways to better communicate with the public and what methods are most effective, traditional, non-traditional, and how to increase the transparency between the government and the citizen.
So hopefully, when we meet in May, maybe we'll have some time after the meeting to talk a little bit about that.
Do you have the results, Laura?
Yeah, yes, we do. And the students just gave a presentation yesterday at U of M on their capstone. Their final reports are due next week, and we'd like to publish those on the township's website as well and make those available. So we can definitely go into detail about those in May once we have those final documents, but we'd also like them to be township-wide. And those were students, as part of their class, had donated all their time to working on these projects for the township.
They were urban and planning students. I was invited to that Zoom presentation on Tuesday, but I couldn't get into the system for whatever reason. So, but I thought, this is the first time I heard about it, and I thought that was very good because we do want to encourage public participation, so that ties in with your.
I think I received an email invite for one of them.
Yeah,
So was
I
that
didn't.
random?
Survey?
I didn't.
Mhm.
Yes.
I got one. I
Did you?
participated in the survey, yes.
Oh, you
Oh,
did?
did you? Okay.
I don't think I got that. Did you get
So I did
something?
remember, right, Dennis?
Yeah, I don't remember getting it, but that's,
Laura,
okay.
were their presentations recorded? Is that what you're talking about, posting on the township?
No, unfortunately, their sessions were not recorded. I was invited to the Zoom as well, and I couldn't get in yesterday. The U of M has a authentication
Period.
issue, for people outside their network. But the final presentations, the PowerPoints that they gave, we'll be able to put those and the reports on the township's website, the results of this survey that they did.
Okay, anything else from anybody?
Motion to adjourn.
Support.
Okay, let me just a minute. Okay, motion to adjourn at 10:35, made by Commissioner Dorchevitz, and you supported it? Supported by Commissioner Barberina. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.